Welcome to Late Night at the Movies, Episode 6, The Wolf of Wall Street.
Mrs. Robinson, he's nothing more than you will know. Whoa, whoa, whoa. God bless the police, Mrs. Robinson. Heaven holds a place for those who pray. Hey, hey, hey.
All right, and that was a tune from the end of the film, actually, when things start to kind of take a turn for the worse there for the characters, which we'll be getting into shortly here. But welcome once again back to Late Night at the Movies. This is episode 6, as I mentioned in the intro there. And today we're going to be talking about The Wolf of Wall Street. If this is your first time watching this show, please hit that like button, that thumbs up on the screen there if you like what you saw here today. And also subscribe if this is your first time watching the show, you're not subscribed. And we do plenty of other shows around here, including our weekly late night chat show and all kinds of other things. Check out our YouTube if you're new to the channel. And for all those returning, thank you. And hopefully, if you're here in the chat live tonight and you've seen this movie before, please feel free to join in on the discussion. Because we have a lot of things to discuss, though, we will be focusing more so on the conversation. And at the end of maybe each topic, I'll throw up some comments or some thoughts you guys might have had in the chat if you take part. After we kind of get our discussions out of the way, because we got to keep things moving. Today we got our first guest on this show. Not a stranger to the channel here. We have Rob, our guest, who actually selected this movie for us to watch this time around, and I'm sure this is must be a favorite of yours. Then, Rob, welcome.
Yep, thank you. This is awesome. Yeah, definitely one of my favorites. It's just so insane, man. It's like literally insane. It's like, how can you not like it? So
yeah. And for all those wondering, I did come in some sort of, character today. I'm actually high on crack right now, like the guys did in the film. I wanted to make it an authentic experience here for you guys. No, I'm just joking, but
yeah, I couldn't think of anything.
Hey, Joseph, what's going on? No, I know there was some discussion previous to this of like maybe showing up in in character or something like that, as we've done, right? Sometimes for fun on this on the channel, but. No, so yeah, no, I'm not on any drugs today, but just drinking my coffee here, and that's a stimulant, right? So, I of course am Nico, and then we got my other co-host JT here tonight.
Like JT's off in La La Land, man.
usually when you say hello.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? No, I'm just checking out my chicken scratch, making sure I wrote it right.
Yeah. Part of work is always getting his notes together.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, man. How's it going? Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, no, this should be a good discussion. I'm looking forward to this, and it's going to be a little bit different here with Rob as well. We were still kind of trying to fine tune this format and. Actually sound semi like we know what we're talking about when we're reviewing movies before getting people on, because we kind of try to do a deep dive discussion on this show, as you know. So, this will be fun, though. So, without further ado, I guess let's get into it. Yep. So, we're talking about The Wolf of Wall Street. Came out in 2013. What's that, Jay? Yeah, sorry. I had something. Yeah.
He came dressed up too as Rob Reiner.
There you go. And JT, I know, is off site again here, recording in the car, as you guys can see as well. But that's okay. We're just gonna keep it rolling. This is actually more so the norm for you on these movie shows. It seems like you're normally in the car, Jay.
Yeah, it makes me feel like I'm at the drive-in.
There you go.
Except I'm by myself.
So this movie was done came out in 2013. This is actually the 5th movie, and I guess the final one to at least to this point in time that Leo worked with Martin Scorsese, a film that he directed. In a long line of great films that they've done together. And this is based on the book by Jordan Belfort, the real Jordan Belfort that Leo played in the film called The Wolf of Wall Street, where he kind of detailed this time in his life. Somebody wrote the screenplay on it. I had his name, but I don't have it up here. Terrence Winter. And so this is, I'm a huge fan of Martin Scorsese. So, of course, usually when we get into kind of our experience with this film that we talk about at the top of the show, we say, what are mine for this one. I can actually vividly remember I actually went to see this in theaters the weekend it came out back in 2013 with my girlfriend. And I was very excited to watch it because at that point I kind of was a big, I had just became like a big Martin Scorsese fan. So,
you actually
right.
remember that? you guys actually remember that? That you were actually in theaters. I mean, I couldn't even remember watching it yesterday.
Yes, I did. I did watch this in theaters specifically. Yeah, we go to watch a lot of films, and this was one because at that point, there's a bunch of directors that I always like to go see their films. So Scorsese at that point for me, I definitely would go see anything that came out of his in theaters, right? So I do remember going to watch this. I was really excited when I saw the trailer for this previous to it coming out because I was also a big Leonardo DiCaprio fan at the time. So what's your experience with this, Jay?
I don't really have too much experience with this. I've watched it once or twice previously. It's a long movie, so it's not something that I sat there and I watched a few times or whatever. So getting back into this one and rewatching it, it was interesting because it was a long film like anything Scorsese does, and it's always interesting. But I mean, it's great laughs. I had good laughs, and that was what I remembered about the movie a lot of, just that if that's the way it was back in the 80s, then fuck, I missed out.
Yeah. How about you, Rob?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't go to the theater to see it. I'm not really a huge theater buff. I usually wait till it comes out on Netflix or something else, or I'll go out and buy it. But yeah, I've seen it. I could like 4, 5, 6 times. Like I watched it again yesterday just to brush up on everything. And yeah, it's just, I mean, especially when I'm going through everything that we're supposed to talk about, it's like for a few of those topics, it's almost impossible to try to find like favorite scene or favorite quote. I mean, there's just endless shit that comes out, man. It's just absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, I was talking to Jay about this last night, actually, because he was telling me the same thing. He was just watching it last night and taking his notes, and he said there's so much to take in as well. And I said to him, on the surface level, there really isn't. I mean, it's really just a 3-hour film for the most part of guys fucking around, rich assholes fucking around, right, having a good time. Yeah. I mean, there is some other stuff there, which we'll get into, of course. But yeah, that's like surface level. There isn't much to the actual plot itself, I would say, compared to maybe some of it. But that's Scorsese's done other films like this, similar to this. Other kind of this is a different type of gangster movie. This movie, right? I mean, they're not really they're criminals, but not in the sense in so many other films where you get to hang out with these guys for a couple hours that Scorsese has done, Goodfellas or Casino or something like that, right? So, so it's a little bit different because it's more, you know what I mean, like a more like rich, country club type criminal type shit going on here, as opposed to like gangster, like kind of underground type stuff.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's interesting in that perspective as well too, because although I knew that Scorsese's name was attached to this, it's a very different film than his other films for that reason too, that are kind of like this, right? Like all the drugs and he goes, I mean, because this is based on somebody else's accounts of all this stuff, he goes like full force with the drug stuff in this one. Like there's like there obviously get drug use in some of his other films too, but this one is just like there is not a bigger film full of degenerates.
True.
And to the point where he calls himself a degenerate in this movie, and I'm just like, well, at least he's aware. He's like, oh, all my friends are degenerates. Like Jesus, like I said from the open of the opening where I said we had to smoke crack, like that was just where it took a turn. I'm like, really, like this early in the film, you guys are smoking crack? I'm like, what the fuck is going on in this movie, right? So it was it's a strange one in that sense.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So let's get into it. The topics here. So we'll start off with favorite scenes, as you mentioned. Yeah, there will be many. So guys in the chat, whoever's going to be taking part in the chat discussion here tonight, save them till the end here. Throw them into the chat if you have any favorites you want us to bring up if we miss them, and we'll kind of we'll go through that way. So mine. I'll start off and then we'll go around.
Yep.
First off, the intro. I mean, the intro, that whole monologue he has at the start where he's introducing all the drugs that he does on a daily basis and like his lifestyle, basically just tells us where we're at right away with this character, right? So I think I got to say the whole intro opening, the introduction to Jordan Belfort, the person Leo is playing in this, definitely set the tone for the movie, because they kind of set the tone in that sense, and then they double back and then tell you how he got to that point. Right. But you have to start the movie the way you kind of had to do, where it's kind of shocking because you're like, right off the bat, you're like, this is a shitty person. Like, you know what I mean? Like why am I watching this movie and this wild kind of asshole, right? Like this guy is like clearly a drug addict, right? After he goes through his opening morning routine of the cocktails of drugs that he's doing on a daily basis, right? So so it's funny though, but so I got to say the intro definitely is still a favorite scene of mine for this film, because you knew exactly what you were getting into right from the get-go, right? So
for sure.
Yeah. So I don't know, did you guys also have that one written down, the intro scenes, or
I didn't have it. Sorry, go ahead, JT.
Well, I was just saying I don't know how far you're talking about with the intro, because mine was sort of in that area, but I don't think it would be considered intro.
Okay, just go ahead. Let us know what your next one is there.
Well, I like that the scene where he first meets Jonah there. What's his name? Donnie.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Where he's first introduced at the diner, when they have that
Donnie
speech
Azoff.
at the diner. Yeah, and he wants to learn how to how much money he makes, and tells him, if you tell me, you show me a pay stub and how much you made today, I'll quit my job right now. And right, it leads up into the whole scene there with the crack, right?
Yeah. Donnie, Jonah playing Donnie Azoff, one of the more very peculiar characters in this movie. Really kind of sets the bar for weirdos in this film. I mean, he's definitely something else. This guy, right? Like, I can't even describe. Like, he's so funny in this movie, man. Jonah, he's just like, what do you have, Rob, on your list?
Oh, for the favorite scene, I mean, like I was saying before, it's just, there's just so much. I mean, definitely loved like the intro. Loved when they first meet like that. I mean, when he's like, what do you mean you make $70,000 a month? Like that's hilarious.
72.
One of my favorite, and I don't know why, but I love that scene at the beach house where they're up on the second level of the pool table, where Donnie thinks about Steve Madden, but he's so out of it on the loose, like Steve Madden, he's like, I just love that. And then 5 minutes later, they're downstairs when they meet Naomi, and sitting there jerking off in front of everybody in front of her, man. I thought that was absolutely hysterical. And then his wife comes out, wife/cousin comes out and just beats the shit out of him. What are you doing? Yeah, that was awesome.
I couldn't believe. I mean, don't get me wrong. Margot Robbie is smoking hot in this movie, but I like to whip it out and do that. They were talking. That's when they first started getting into the lewds and the different stages of high that you get when you do. Right?
Yeah.
I wrote the next one I had after the intro was the McConaughey scene. The McConaughey scene where he meets him at that other firm or wherever that he works at, broker thing in Wall Street there. He when he meets him and goes out to dinner for him, that one scene, great scene. And at that point, McConaughey was
that was me.
Yes, sorry, Jay, according to the picture that we put up today.
Yes.
using his face up. Yes, that was a great scene. I gotta say, he really kind of again, just like a pivotal, like a very important scene, I think, because he's the one who kind of taught, because he's just so like not used to like this world at that point. So the fact that he takes him out and he's not doing any drugs, he's not, you know what I mean? Like he's like Abe in the Woods, like kind of like he's like, oh, I don't like, how are you able to get through your day doing all these drugs and all that? He's like, you know what I mean? Like that was a great scene just for him introducing that whole thing, and the chest thumping thing, which became like the mantra of the film, to the point where they brought it up again in like the speech later on in the movie. That was all improvised by McConaughey. Like he came there. I don't know if you guys knew about any of the stories. I know a few of the stories that I've learned through interviews and different things about this movie. He had an idea for this character. I guess the scene was very bare boned, and he kind of came there and was doing this on set, and they kind of saw him doing that, and he kind of tapped into it, and I guess he kind of just rolled with it, right? But I think it was something that he had planned an idea of this person that he brought to the film, because he's like, well, listen, I'm gonna be in this one scene. That was the scene, right? He brought it all, right, for that scene that he was in. So yeah, I gotta say that McConaughey scene, great scene. So
yeah, and especially when the waiter first comes over, he's like, well, Hector, here's the game plan. You're going to bring us 2 absolute martinis. It's like every 7.5 minutes, you're going to bring 2 more in 5 minutes till one of us passes the fuck out. It's like unbelievable.
Yeah. How about you, Jay?
For another scene, I like the one where we first are introduced to Rob Reiner.
His father. Yeah.
He's watching his television show with his wife, and
Equalizer.
Yeah, Equalizer. And he's fucking freaking out. And as soon as he picks up the phone, he starts talking in the British accent.
Yeah.
As soon as he hangs up the phone again, he just starts fucking cursing and freaking out at the top of his lungs. That one was a great one for me too.
Right.
I think that scene, just as an intro to bring Rob Reiner and be like, let's bring him out and see if everybody remembers where they seen him last, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, he's been behind the scenes directing and doing a lot of stuff like that in the past years. But I mean, other than that, you don't see him too much in, especially big films like this, unless he's got a little cameo in it or something, right?
He had a couple of directors in this film show up as actors. Jon Favreau as well, who's also acted too, right? So like, so that was which was great. They were both in a scene all together, Leo, him, and Rob Reiner, right? So yeah, no, for sure. I liked that, and I liked seeing him show up in this. There was an interesting cast of other kind of veteran actors as well in this one, the people that have been in the business for a long time. That Scorsese, I don't think, has worked with as much in other things. I mean, Leo, like I said, Leo at this point worked with, like, this is his 5th film with them, right? So they kind of have like a, they have like their whole rhythm already, these two, I'm sure. But like, Margot Robbie, that I think this is like her first like American kind of film that she did, right? Yeah, right. And Jonah, this was a huge deal for Jonah because he was just in a lot. Although this is a comedy, this is still a Scorsese film. So like he had talked about how big of a deal this was for him. So Rob, what do you have next?
That was same one as JT. I was going to say. I love that. Like when the phone, like it's so quiet and the phone rings, he just, who the fuck has got the goddamn gall to call me up on a Tuesday at this hour? It's like, hello, Gene. Yes. Oh, cheerio. What the fuck? It's just, I just absolutely love that. That one and the other scene at the near the end there, where he takes the real old Quaaludes that took forever to kick in,
lemons,
and he's on the phone talking to his lawyer, and all of a sudden he's like, he goes right into the cerebral palsy fucking face.
Yeah. I have that written down on my list too. Yeah, you guys are hitting a lot of the other ones that I had written down, so that's why I'm not hitting them. That one for sure. Thing. But rewatching that, it seems so absurd that Leo actually had to do that scene for like the fact that he actually had to do the whole stairs and it's hilarious. Like I just can't imagine being on that set trying to like take that seriously, you know, and actually like have to be that way.
Exactly. Yeah, I saw an interview with him when he was explaining about when he went up to the Countach trying to open the door with his leg, and it's like he had to do all that. Like I would have pissed myself laughing trying to watch that, man. Like it was so well done.
And how he imagines that like the car he got home fine somehow.
Yeah.
Crashed. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Not a scratch on it. The next day when the cops take him away, it's like totaled. Yeah.
And then I also got the scene where Leo makes the cold call when he opens his first agency, when he's showing them all how it's done, you know, and he's got them on the phone and he's like going like this and like, you know, like he's just like trying to like reel in this guy, you know. Yeah, exactly. But just the whole you know, just like the whole scene with him just getting all the guys going and showing them how it's done, right? Like the guy's got the gift of gab, right? Which is, you know, they did make him seem quite impressive with just about the 6 months under his belt at a big firm prior to coming and starting his own thing, right? Like he walked in there, and that whole scene when he went to the penny stock place.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, with the pink sheet stuff that they're doing, they get 50% commission. This guy stole $5,000 worth of a penny stock when he walked through the door, and that guy's like, "How the fuck did you do that?" Like he's just like right to the point where he's, you know, they write a whole script out for them, right? Like everyone like loves the lines that he busted out on them because he's using big time kind of skills and for these shitty stocks, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So that scene I gotta say is one of my favorite as well, because it's really the only moment in the film you really get to see him shine and do what he does prior to like all the insanity that follows, right? Like in his life, right? So how about you, Jay? Anything else?
For scenes?
Yeah.
What do I got here? Oh, the midget tossing scene. Yeah, that big party. I don't know. Little people, I don't know if I can say midget because they use that word there. But yeah, that scene was that whole party, that whole scene, that whole man makes you really. I mean, if I had a job like that, I'd want to go to work every fucking day. I don't know about you guys.
Even the scene where they're all discussing it in that boardroom, where they're like, they literally go on for like 10 minutes.
All forward, like their heads are shaped. They're in shape to take. You know, they're shaped to be tossed. And oh fuck, man.
No, he's like, but these things, you know, these things, they gossip. You got to watch what you do. He's like, will this thing pull his dick out? He's like, I don't know. And then like they go on for like a minute, and he's like, oh, actually, yeah, it does see here. You look at it, pull his dick out.
Yeah.
And, which isn't surprising. A lot of this was improvised, this film, right? Like a lot of the scenes where it was kind of loose like this, like they, you know, Scorsese allowed for a lot of improvisation in this film, right? So it's not surprising you got some of the lines you did. So
I mean, they probably were all high, and Scorsese didn't know, so he was able to improvise a little bit. Everybody was able to improvise, and then at the end, you know, fuck, if you're Scorsese, even if you're watching it and you're not really into all that, you're gonna say, "Wow, this is fucking hilarious." I mean, you let those guys run amok on set. The actors that they had there. Wow, I forgot how much of a great movie it actually was. Like the first scenes and stuff like that. So I can pick out the whole movie, and say that that's my favorite scene, but the whole movie was basically my favorite. You know what I mean? Like really, now that I sat back and I watched it, I'm thinking, I was second guessing myself when I had said, I think I mentioned another one was funny the other day, but no, this one here blows my mind. Like it's just smart, funny, and it's kind of what we see now with people, you know, playing with penny stocks.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Rob, you got anything left there on your list, Rob? You didn't mention?
Pretty much. The only other few that I had were pretty much already discussed, like with that as well. So yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. The only other really big one that killed me this time around that I forgot watching, that I forgot in the film was it was the whole gay orgy scene with the butler and how that turned out. Like, yeah, that killed me because I forgot about that scene because it really doesn't. I mean, you see that whole scene and you get over it and move along with the film. It has no impact on it
No.
whatsoever. Like other than to say, like, he's so rich that the cops, he could just call them and they took care of it. You know what I mean? And he lost out 50 grand and he didn't even really care in the end. Like it was just like literally like a footnote and like it had no, like for a second you thought, oh, maybe this is going to lead to somewhere else, but it didn't, right?
Yeah.
Like within like 10-15 minutes you get this whole funny kind of scene and explanation resolution all in that moment, right, of this butler and the gay orgy that they had. And so like but there was some really funny stuff happening in that scene, right? That I like how he said, oh yeah, I felt I knew you were coming home the next day, and then I called up my buddy and I was like, I was making some eggs and I'm like, hey, I know who likes eggs, this guy. And all of a sudden it just turns into a gay orgy. I'm just like
yeah. Oh man. Yeah, that was something else.
And then the funniest part was when Jonah, he's like, come on, man, I saw you. Like, he's like, apparently Jonah was like at a gay club dancing and this guy saw him there. And he's like, what are you talking about? I wasn't there. I don't know. Sometimes I like to dance. Like, what's the big deal? Just like, and then
I could have, but I don't remember.
And then the two guys, the Chinese guy and the other bigger guy, are both sitting there and they're just looking at each other like, what the fuck? Because Jonah keeps saying these weird things and like Straigh's like, what do you mean? I don't know you. What are you talking about? And then all of a sudden, he's like, yeah, sometimes I like to dance. I love gay people. And they're just like, what?
Oh, fuck. Yeah,
that
was good.
My cousin is gay. What the fuck's the big deal? Yeah, no, it was fucking. What's that, Jay?
I wonder if it's the one that they said in the beginning that he has kids with, because he had sex with his own cousin, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, the other things are just really small, funny moments that I had written down here, but not really bigger scenes. Leo dancing at his wedding, I thought was hilarious. There's so many of those gifs online that people use from this film. Then you got the whole Margot Robbie argument with Leo scene, with her with the heels and all that, and the security.
With the body, Rocco and Rocco watching.
Yeah. Max brought up a good one here. I love the scene when he fake retires in front of his workers. I'm not fucking leaving. Yeah, that's a good one. That whole speech, that monologue for sure is that's for him on the mic before. The one out that you were afforded in this film that you threw out the window and just kept it going.
Yep, exactly.
So I'm sure that'll come up again at some point. But that is a great thing for sure, Max. I agree. Anyways, Jay, if you wanna start us off with our favorite quotes of the film, if you want to move on to the next category, I think that does it for scenes. But again, guys, we can go on and on. I'm sure with these scenes, what was your guys' favorite though overall? I would have to say, I don't know, man. I gotta say, I love that McConaughey scene, man. I really love that McConaughey scene. At that point, when I saw this film in theater, this is part of like as I like to call it, the McConaissance. It's the renaissance of Matthew McConaughey, because at this point, Matthew McConaughey was on a crazy run. Basically becoming a great actor again in my eyes, because he prior to this was in a lot of like romantic comedies and he fell off my radar for a long while, right? So I think that this was part of a good time for McConaughey. This is Dallas Buyers Club won the Oscar type time for McConaughey. So seeing him as a cameo in this film really made me happy, and it's what I most remember from this movie. Like him, that one scene kind of stole the show, right? In a sense. And
it was good.
Where they integrated into the script, like I said, with the whole chest bumping thing, right? So, I gotta say that scene. Jay, what was your favorite scene overall? You think, if you had to pick one?
The one I said, I think the one where they sat there in the
diner.
And they were talking back and forth, and he went and actually quit to his boss. So the whole monologue there and sets the tone to where their relationship's gonna go. So I think I like that scene. I mean, there is quite quite a few scenes in there, but I think at just that one, even though it's still at the beginning of the movie and there was great scenes after that, I think that one kind of set the tone for where these two were gonna be, for the rest of the movie and how it was gonna work, right? So,
Rob.
Yeah, I mean, I'm back and forth from that Steve Madden part with him slamming the shoe and everything on the pool table to the phone call from that club to the lawyer where he just that 4 or 5 lewds that he took finally kicked in and just knocked him on his ass. I mean, probably that one, because that whole scene, even when he gets back to the house and like Jonah's on the phone and he's like, FBI, and he's like, shut him on the phone. It's just like, oh, it was awesome. So I'm gonna have to say that one.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's a good one too. I like all those. All right, Jay, start us off with favorite quotes of the film.
Well, I remember one quote specifically. I mean, that I liked it, and I think there's nobody else that probably delivered it better than I'm a big fan of Rob Reiner. I'll be honest with you guys. I to be honest, I watched all of the All in the Families and all that stuff, and any little thing he's kind of directed here and there if it's a funny sort of movie. But I liked when he comes in freaking out about the credit card expenses, and he uses that line. He uses what kind of hookers take credit cards? And Jonah looks at him and says, rich ones.
Yeah. That whole EG Entertainment or whatever the hell it was called.
EJ.
Yeah.
EJ.
Yeah.
EJ Entertainment.
He starts describing the tiers after, right? Like of what kind of hookers or what, right? I was dying. But that, just reading into that section, and then he's trying to...
Yeah, high class score can cost you up to $1,000, and then there was the $300 to $500 range or something like that.
Yeah, it was the blue chip.
And then the pink ticket ones.
Yeah, it was the blue chip, the NASDAQ, and the pink sheet.
Yeah.
Right? So that quote led into a good scene too. I forgot about that, but that quote led into a really great scene. I like that one. That was one of them. There's a shitload of quotes, so it's hard to kind of go through. I can give you a few of them as you guys go through after. But yeah, that one really stood out to me. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because he was so serious about it, like, and back then it was true. Like what hookers did take credit cards back then. You wouldn't think of that. You just think of straight cash, right? So, yeah, that was one.
Rob,
go next here. Rob,
it's again, it's funny JT says that because I got it written right here in front of me. Same thing where he just, the girl warns that his dad's coming through, and he's just like, $430,000 for 1 month of American Express. And then something about 26,000, and then when Jonah says on appetizers, and he's like, Rob Reiner's like, yeah, or Mad Max, he's like, what does it cure cancer? He's like, yes, it cures cancer. It's just, oh man, just love it. And that's what he said. He says, and what is this EJ Entertainment? And just the way they're all laughing and like, just, perfect quote. I was like, yeah, I love it.
I wrote down here, funny enough, another Jonah thing is that it's the scene that Jay had mentioned as his favorite scene. It's basically, I'll say it right now, this is my favorite quote of the whole film, because it's one that stood out to me after watching the movie. So I'll mention it now. It's that one. He's like, where he says to him, he's like, how much money do you make? He's like, $70,000. He's like, technically $72,000 last month. Yeah. He's like, you show me a pay stub for 72 grand and I'll quit my job right now and come work for you. That line that he had there, and just how serious it was, and just the introduction of him, like that line was a huge line for the film for me, just because it started off that whole friendship, right? And just like, and then like you get the scene with him getting on the phone right away and just like quitting his job. Yeah, I quit. Just like,
I'm done.
Yeah, and there's like Leo just like just like looking at like just watching him do this. He's like, yeah, I don't know, it was really weird. It was very just like, then he just got on the phone and quit. Like, that's the only reason like this that he let this guy come and work with him. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah,
and then
because he's like about the car, right? He's like, and you live in my building. He says, I'm trying to figure out. He goes, oh, the fuck, you have a car like that and you live in my building, right?
yeah, he's like, yeah, you know, I sell furniture. Yeah.
Yeah.
and then Max just said a moment ago, then they go out to dinner or something after the fact because he's I don't know, I'm hearing all these weird stories about you and the cousin, like, right? Yeah, if anyone's gonna be fucking my cousin, it's gonna be me.
Yeah, I just read that. Yeah, exactly. It could be
But
me.
Max, he forgot. He also says, like, out of respect, he says that.
Yeah.
He's just like, I'm gonna let somebody else fuck my cousin. If anybody's gonna fuck my cousin, it's gonna be me. You know, out of respect. Yeah. And then he's talking about. He's like, well, yeah, what are you gonna do if you know, you guys have a kid and it comes out weird, right? He's just like, yeah, you know, and then I'm just gonna drive it up north and like let it, you know, open the car door and let it run free or whatever, right? Like an animal or something, right?
Yeah.
He's like, I'm just joking. And then like Leo thinks he's joking about the whole thing. And he's like, yeah, no. You know, we set up for adoption or something or whatever the hell he says. Like, he gets all serious. He's like, oh, okay. He's like, listen, man, if you're happy, that's fine.
Yeah,
like, nah.
exactly.
Yeah, that whole joke, but the scene where he says, you show me a pay stub for this much and I'll quit my job right now. Yeah, that's probably my favorite quote. I got other ones written down we'll get into here, but that's my favorite quote, I think, of the film. Jay?
Yeah.
What else do I got here? I have when he was explaining to his dad, he says about the hookers and the girls being all shaved, right? And he
I have
says
that one
to his
written
dad,
down.
Yeah.
all shaved, bald as a China doll, right? Top to bottom, no eyebrows, no. You know, he goes through the whole explaining of that one too, with just one line. He comes out with just that one quote when he says, "Bald as a China doll," and then he starts getting into his dialogue in his head. You know, like the narrating part.
Well, the part of that I wrote down was he's like, I've never been a fan of the Bush, to be honest. He's like, and Rob Reiner's like, really? I don't mind it.
Yeah.
That's the part that was funny. I wrote that part down. I was like, that's hilarious. You're like, really?
On the page, bro. I literally was writing on the back of the book today, man. I even went to look for a new book so I could keep writing, man. But yeah, there's so many of them. That part was great. I couldn't remember that whole piece, right? But yeah.
I had to hold back the quote for out of all of them, even more than the scenes, the quotes, like, because there's just so many of these one-liners. That's why I knew there's going to be 3 of us, so I was trying to hold back a bit in how many I wrote of those. Because yeah, like you, I'd run out of I would have to move on to a next textbook if I kept going. You know what I mean? Like, sorry, a new notepad if I kept going.
That's what happens. There's always the one. There's always the one. That one liner, but it leads into that whole dialogue of something in this movie. You could tell one liners in the movie.
What was that word that you just used? Dialogue?
Yeah.
No, the dialogue. I said no.
Dialogue? Oh, I thought you said biologue. I don't know. That's what I heard.
You were the one just talking about the gay, the gay scene there. So I don't know. I was talking about bi. Maybe you, bro.
I'm just bugging you because I listen. I swear I heard biologue. Let us know in the chat if you heard Jay say biologue.
I love you, bro. I'm just fucking with you. I don't think I might have. Who knows, bro?
Yeah.
I can't remember right now.
Rob, what do you got?
Oh, again, pretty much the same as what I figured everybody else would be writing down. I did like that other scene. I'm trying to remember whether it was one where he came back where he was supposed to quit on the mic, and then he decided that I'm fucking staying, and then he started going on. He just kept repeating himself, pick up the phone and start dialing, pick up the phone and start dialing, like over and over and over. And it's like, and people are like, yeah, pick up the phone and start dialing. And then all of a sudden it just went crazy, or everybody just went to town. And same with the Steve Madden stock, you know, like when he came there to do that, and it was just like everybody goes crazy. Yeah, I'm not even there anymore.
the other big one for me that I had written down, I'm actually just going through them here. It looks like a lot of the ones that I connected with actually were some of the Jonah lines in this film, actually, which I thought he was in the movie a lot more. So I think that like this time around watching it, I remembered him being in the film a lot more than he actually is, which speaks to a lot to like his screen time and like what he did on it in his scenes, right? Because I thought he was like he was in it and like. It's basically Leo every scene Leo's in, like the whole movie's Leo. Like this is Leo's movie for sure. I knew that obviously, but I thought that Jonah Hill was honestly like at least in more than half the film, but he's not. Like the first hour, other than that scene in the diner, he's really not even saying anything in the scenes that he shows up in, really, until like they get really messed up with like the lewds later on and all that. Like that's when he has like a few good moments, but. I was for whatever reason I thought he was in it more, but this time around I realized he wasn't. But I like the line where he says, "Sweetheart, you have my money taped to your tits. No offense, you do work for me."
Yeah, yeah, that was good.
Yeah, where that buddy's wife is going over to Sweden or whatever to that banker, right? And she's taping all the money to herself, and he gets lippy with John Bernthal there. It was just a juice bag in this film, you know. When people at this point, John Bernthal, I know he's been in other things, but I only really knew him from Walking Dead when I watched this movie. So like when he showed up in this, I was like, oh, yeah, that's the guy from the first season there from Walking Dead,
season, right? That was
second season when he gets killed. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, so that one was always a funny one. I thought. You guys got any more quotes?
I just have something to say to what Max said there.
Yeah.
Right? And he says about the Benihana, and he said, as I got written down, I'll tell you what, I'm not eating Benihana. I don't care whose birthday it is.
Yeah. Bonnie's telling him that. Yeah. yeah. When he tells him he's being wiretapped, or he has a wire, right? And he's like, yeah, man. He's like, because they kind of screwed him over with that's the whole reason he ended up going to jail eventually, right? Was because of them, right? Benihana or whatever. Like they found out that's who the Swedish banker was apparently in cahoots with as well. And when he came to the States, right? Yeah. Or Swiss banker.
Switzerland. Yeah.
Swiss bank. Yeah. Rob, you got anything else for quotes?
Just, I had another one. I thought I had wrote it down, but it was on the damn other page. But when they first were going to Switzerland, when they were on the plane to meet everybody, and they were so high.
Oh yeah.
And they were trying to attack all the stewardess and everything. I can't remember. I had it written down, but I don't remember. There was a quote there, but that scene was just hilarious. Where all of a sudden he wakes up and he's like seatbelt strapped to the seat, and he couldn't move or anything like that. And I can't remember what Jonah had said, but yeah, there was. Again, that was more of a scene, but as opposed to a quote. But I mean, it was great.
The only other things I have written down here, basically, like we've already talked about it. There was mentioned in the chat, the "I'm not fucking leaving" part, and sell me this pen. Like that's another that
was awesome.
Yeah, that's another popular quote from the film, because again, it goes back to his ability to sell, right? And like right, even to the point where like the whole the character, the real life, like Jordan Belfort, like when he at the end there, he is the guy who actually introduces Leo at that event where he's these money management, like one of those guys that like basically does these shows to like help teach people how to sell and this kind of stuff, right? So he Jordan Belfort was the one that introduced Leo on the mic there at the end, so that was pretty interesting. Because I looked up some photos of this before, just interested in see how these guys look in real life, right? And like how his wives looked and all this kind of stuff now, right? I mean, I don't know if his wife looked like Margot Robbie did.
Yeah, no kidding.
She certainly doesn't look like that now. So I was happy that they cast someone like Phil. I think she's great. I think she's a great actress, but she's very, very. And I don't know how I forgot it. I forgot there was even that whole scene of her naked in this, which I somehow I knew that happened in this movie, but it's been quite a long time since I've seen this movie. So it almost surprised me again when I saw it. I was like, because now she wouldn't do that, I don't think, right? Sometimes when actresses, unless like the role is right for like them actually getting naked for the role or whatever, right? But as an introduction to American audiences in this film, man, it was. pretty crazy.
That's why they
right?
went
'Cause
up for tea.
right, that's right.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
I
want
mean,
to come up for tea.
yeah. Oh yeah. Then I also have written down here. He's like, I discovered a brand new phase, the cerebral palsy
Yes.
phase. Which
I had that
yeah.
written down too. Yeah. Yeah,
Jay,
it
anything
was
else?
awesome.
When he's got the cop there with the boat and he's walking away, let me, or the cop says, "Let me give you some legal advice. Shut the fuck up."
That was so stupid. Like if he actually like, and I know it's based on the book, so he must have did that in real life. But that was stupid that he did that. Like he was just like on top of the world, like nothing's gonna take me down type of stuff. But to get him on the boat, incriminate himself, then try to bribe the guy, right? Like and just like the I like how they tied that together. What's that, Jay?
He was so smooth about it, though.
Yeah, but he was so stupid about it too. Like, why would you do that? Like, the guy tells them that he hired, don't invite this guy. And he, like, what does he do? He invites the guy, right? And like, I like though how they connected it at the end of the film, where the guy's taking the subway like a schmuck, like he was referring to previous in the film. And he's like looking around. He's like, it was almost like a silent, like you got the message there. I seem like, because he was looking around at all the people in the subway. He's like, yeah, I guess the guy, like, what was this all for? Like, this guy's in jail for a couple of years, and he's like, he's living nicely in jail, and I'm sitting here on the subway taking the subway, right? Like, it was an interesting a thing to see at the end there, and they didn't really have to explain much by just showing you, because if you remember what he said to him on the boat earlier in the film, right, that stood out to me, that scene for sure.
Yeah, actually the other one quickly too I like was when they were first sitting down discussing everything at the restaurant there, when he first said about sell me this pen, and then he gave it to what's his name, Doug there, and Doug's trying to wait for his ketchup, and he's getting more and more pissed. So he throws him over the pen. He's like, so he says to Leah, he says to Jordan, he's like, here, write this down. Jordan's like, well, I don't have a pen. He goes, here, buy this. He says, supply and demand.
Yeah. Buyer's market. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, buyer's market. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. No, that was good. It was funny when he was introducing everybody too. He's like, yeah, this guy sells tires and weed. And, this guy kind of sells where he gets his hand off, mostly weed. Yeah. Everyone just sells weed. Like, it's just a bunch of guys from Queens. You know what I mean? Just like, yeah, no, I liked that. I liked how it was like small town, like city guys like that, like who kind of like, that's the only moment. Like, it's not like I don't know. I don't want to say it's like a success. Like, it is a kind of a success story, but like, you don't really want to root for these people because they're all kind of terrible people, but you have so much fun spending time with them in the film that kind of, which is again, something that I think Scorsese is really good at. So I think that, this spoke to like his other films as well. Like, I know this is something previously written, but the material was right, I think, for Scorsese to have done this film, for sure, just based on that. Because in those other films, you hang around with a lot of bad people too, but you learn to love them, right? So in this one, it's kind of the same thing. You're just like, these are terrible people, but this was a lot of fun. Awesome. Okay, Rob. So those are our favorite scenes and quotes from the film, guys. If you want to throw up anything else, let us know in the chat. Otherwise, we're going to move into our favorite performance of the film. So these are going to be a lot of shorter answered kind of topics here that we'll be bringing up next. But feel free to explain why, about any of these, why it was your favorite performance and all that. So go ahead, Rob. You have the honors.
Well, one of the ones, anyways, is pretty much all is with Jordan and all the pep talks. Like, I mean, when he would get up in front of everybody, I mean, you're talking an office and it looks like it has 200 people in it. And, you can hear a pin drop because everybody is just, they're just hanging on his every word. And he just gets so intense with some of those pep talks. It was just, it was great. Like, I thought that was an awesome scene. Like, several of the pep talks, like whether it be when they first started to the middle and then to when he thought he was gonna quit, and then all of a sudden it was like, I'm not fucking I just I would have said it's probably a great performance. So
you're saying Leonardo DiCaprio. Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. And to be honest with you guys, going into the film, I thought the one that was going to take it for me because I just remember being overly impressed by his performance in this movie was going to be Jonah. And then watching the film again, I'm like, because I going into this film, I knew I was gonna like Leo because I'm a big fan of his. Like, I like all the movies like I had seen of his up to that point for the most part. I've liked the work that him and Scorsese did together. So it's almost like that's the easy answer. But like I said, he's in every scene. He brings it every scene. He's got those monologues with the speeches like you just mentioned, and then it's undeniable that he was my favorite performance in this film. Like, I went into it thinking maybe I wasn't going to give it to him and maybe give it to Jonah or somebody else who I didn't really expect to kill it as much as they did, like even Margot Robbie, right?
Yeah.
But it's undeniable. Like, he just, the move, it's his movie, and he's in he kills everything he's in, and he's in every scene. So like, I had to give it to no. Yeah, that's also my answer for this one. It's undeniable, and I know a lot of people. I think he's. You know what it is? It's not that he's a good actor. He's a great actor. Don't get me wrong, but I think he's smart about the roles that he's taken over the last 10, 15 years of his career. Like the people he works with, the scripts he takes, the characters he plays. He always plays really cool, fun characters in these movies. He's worked with like a lot of directors, like Scorsese, Tarantino more recently. Like he's just he aligns himself with good people. So I think like he's been very fortunate in that sense, right? Like, as well, I think he's very smart about what he does, which movies he's in, and the characters he plays, right? And Christopher Nolan he's worked with, and like there's my list of directors, like my top 10 like current like that are out right now, like he's worked with like half of them. So like,
yeah,
I'm always happy to see him show up in one of these things, right? So I got to give it to Leo. Yeah. How about you, Jay?
I like just the combination of the performances between Leo and Jonah Hill there in that movie. Uh, I mean, from everything from that first scene, like I was explaining, to the scene where when they're all high and they find out, like you were saying, that the FBI did they tapped their phone, and even to the parties that they have um, inside the office and stuff, and how they play off each other too. I mean, I was going into this film knowing that Leonardo was gonna be the guy of the movie and the performance role of the movie, but watching it again, he kind of gave me a little bit of a Jack Nicholson sort of like, and sorry, not a Jack Nicholson, an Al Pacino sort of feel in that movie. I don't know if you guys would think that, and especially in
How
those
so?
yelling performances. Well, in those yelling performances, in those, it almost
Right.
sounded like he was a mobster, and he even had that kind of look to his face where he was
Mhm.
freaking out. Uh, so I don't know if it's just a type of role that Scorsese likes to put out there, or make them, kind of show off. But I feel like uh, I was going in there and already thinking that Leonardo was going to have all my performances. But to be honest, I think Jonah took a lot as a not so much as the star actor, but as the you know what I mean, as the what do
Yeah.
they call that, the
yeah,
Supporting
fucking
actor.
word,
yeah.
supporting, yeah.
Which
So
I think he
I
was
mean,
up for. I think he was. I don't know if he won, but I believe he was nominated for this film, if I'm not mistaken. I'm gonna look that up while you're talking, Jay. But
but yeah, no, I mean, their things, everything on the airplane too, when he was strapped into the seat, like, I
That
mean,
was awesome.
those were some of the craziest performances between two actors I've seen. Like, the way they played off each other, it just worked. I think it worked really well for that movie. I mean, I don't think Matthew McConaughey, let's say, would have worked as well if he ended up playing that part. But like, I think Leonardo DiCaprio knew what he was doing, and Jonah Hill, as a newer actor in sort of that sort of style of acting, just played
mhm.
it right. I think both of them back and forth. I can't seem to pick out what performance between the two of them I like better. So that's why I
Yeah,
kind of said they kind of feed off each other, really. I mean, don't get me wrong, the narrating and stuff, that a lot of that comes from the book that what's it called, Jordan Belfield wrote. But
yeah. Wolf
I
of Wall
mean,
Street. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean that narrating part you don't think of as too much in the background when he's talking. It's the actual performances that I like
Yeah.
seeing, right? I mean, I tried to get them between both people and who I can join them or them individually, you know. So I honestly I think I give it to them both when it comes to performances, like I said, and
Cheater.
I
You
would.
can't give them to them both. Pick one.
Well, I mean, just because the way they fed off each other, I'm
Yeah.
not saying
No,
that
listen,
one's
I'm right there with you with Jonah. Like if I didn't give it to Leo, I would give it to Jonah.
Oh, yeah.
So like
Yeah.
I agree with you. Like he's right there. And to answer my previous question here, they were both nominated for Academy Awards. Jonah for best performance by an actor in a supporting role, and Leo got best performance by an actor in a leading role. But they didn't take the award that year. But they were both nominated for this one. So
Yeah, but I think they went up
Nice.
against some crazy shit that year.
yeah. All right, so you get undecided on you, but between those two, it's
Well, you know what? I'm gonna be.
Cool,
Gonna
I'm just
be
bugging you.
The opposite. I'm gonna say Jonah.
Gonna say
then.
Jonah?
I'm gonna
Okay.
say Jonah because he fed well off of, and his role played remarkably well off of Leonardo DiCaprio, and I don't think. I mean, I don't know if it was just that style of character that he was supposed to be playing in that movie, but
Yeah.
it fed so well, that whole Jewish money hungry type of, wanting to make.
What are you trying to say?
He just played it right. Hey, dude, you can edit me out. I don't care. But
No, that's all right. So yeah, so Max threw up in the comments here. He's like, it's definitely Leo's movie, but I thought McConaughey stole the show for the scenes he was in. I wanted to bring that up here at the end of our discussion for favorite performance, because we're going into our next category, which I did award to McConaughey for favorite cameo. So I agree with you, Max. He did steal the show with that one scene that he was in for the film, like to the point where, like I said, it is my favorite scene probably of the film. But yeah, that's why I wanted to slot him in for a category here, and I put him in for my favorite cameo in a movie full of. There's lots of other great cameos in this film. There's a lot of guys, even background guys, that worked in this, or smaller parts of the guys that worked in his team that you might recognize from other things, and I'm sure it'll come up in some of our That Guy awards later on here tonight. A lot of recognizable other good actors that were in this, but cameo, this is the one category I knew going into this movie that I didn't even have to think about. I already had it in my head written down, because now I kind of go, after doing a few of these, Rob, I'm used to, I was telling Jay this, going into this and already maybe pre-thinking, if it's a film I've seen many times, what some of the categories could go to. And sometimes watching a movie after a while, and that's why I like re-examining them in this format. I have different thoughts going into it the second time around or the third time around or whatever, right? So sometimes that changes, right? But that was one I was like, yeah, that's it. I mean, favorite cameo has to go to McConaughey because he stole the show with that one scene. So for favorite cameo, that's my answer. What'd you get, Jay?
I had to say McConaughey. That's the only one that I think was in the shortest part that I actually knew that actually stood out. I mean, he was only in there, I mean, for a few scenes, maybe 2-3 scenes in the beginning, and that was
two scenes. The one at the agency, and then the one at the dinner, and then you see him for 2 seconds when the market crashes, when they have Black Monday, where he's just like, what the fuck? But like, essentially it's all in one block. It's like 15-20 minutes of that part of the film, and that's it, right? Like he that was probably like a day of shooting, right? You know what I mean? Like maybe a couple days, but like, yeah, that was it.
3-hour film. In a 3-hour film, yeah, that's
right.
Considered a cameo. I mean, anything less than 15 minutes, I don't think would even be, it's like,
no.
Where was that part in the movie again? Like, so you needed to have a good at least 15 minutes on screen time to be recognized in that movie. I think it was a long film and a lot to take in. So yeah, but Matthew McConaughey definitely. I mean, fuck, bro. He set the tone for the whole movie. He set the whole tone for Wall Street, right? And he looked like up until you met him, he looked like Leonardo DiCaprio looked like a little pussy, right? Until you met him, and started to copy his style.
Yeah. How about you, Rob?
Well, same thing. I mean, I was going to say McConaughey, but I knew both these were going to say McConaughey, so I'm actually going to go with Rob Reiner. I mean, for a cameo, I mean, I know he's probably in about a little bit more than what a cameo would be, but I mean, it was only little pockets here and there. It just, I mean, I can't argue with you guys. McConaughey definitely made the movie. I mean, that's the way it was started out. But with Reiner, with the way, you know, you see him when he's watching the TV and he freaks out answering the phone when he comes in about the American Express card, and, you know, just little things here and there. He's such a great
Did it remind you of All in the Family? Like when he used to just come in for those little pieces and that was it. He would get yelled at and whatever, and then he'd be gone.
Meathead, yeah.
I mean,
so yeah, I love Rob Reiner. Yeah, I think he's great. So
no, that's good that you included him in something because yeah, no, he should. He was great in this movie for sure. I really did enjoy him in this. So yeah, that's cool to put him for cameo. Yeah, I agree. Like he was in a few different scenes, but when he showed up, it was kind of like, oh, look, Rob Reiner's in this film, right? Like just like I felt like when I saw McConaughey show up, right, unexpectedly, right? So I can appreciate that for sure. Okay. Okay, let's see here. What's next? I just did that one. So JT, why don't you hit us with the overacting award? Who did you feel was the biggest overactor of this film, if you even had an answer for this one?
I didn't really have an answer. I thought maybe the his wife there, what's her name? The blonde one there at the end.
Whose wife?
Oh, fuck, what's her name?
The first wife of
the second one, the
Naomi?
Margot Robbie? Yeah, Naomi in the film, the Duchess. Yeah, you felt she overacted? How so?
Certain parts. I don't know when she was. She played him good, but I mean, I don't know. I feel that I don't know. I felt that it was overacting. I don't know if it was just me but I just felt that.
Your opinion?
She could have toned it down a little. I mean, not even. She could have stepped it up. I would think. You know, you're in a crazy movie with some big name guys. You're with a big name director. You know what I mean. Step it up a bit. I don't know. I felt with the water spitting, with us pouring the water on him when she was freaking out, or you know, there was. I mean, both his wives were fucking nuts. Maybe that's why I'm still single here. But I mean, you know.
I felt you can more so make an argument for the first wife. I was gonna say you can make an argument for the overacting. I didn't feel that Margot Robbie. I don't think she. I think not like we said before on this, overacting doesn't always mean that it was a bad performance as well. Like there's just certain scenes where they're just very over the top with it, and in a film like this, there was a lot of those moments, right? I think you guys will be surprised by my answer once it comes around to me, right? So yeah, I got to that's fair.
Yeah, it's just I couldn't think of her. I mean, there, like you said, there is a lot of overacting with characters because that's just the role they're trying to portray in this type of movie, right? I get it, but I mean, it's kind of I don't know, when you're looking at more of the bigger actors in there, you're wondering.
Yeah. Well, I hope I'm not stepping on Rob's answer here, but a lot of people have said the same. I don't know if they've mentioned this film in particular, but about some of his other stuff. Some people have said that about Leo.
That's
right?
My answer.
Yeah. Sorry. See, and you know, with some of those drug fueled scenes, he's definitely hamming it up and putting it all up there, right? So I don't blame.
Not even the drugs, like getting back to those pep talk things. Like his face was so red. He's taking the mic and he's smashing it on his forehead, you know, and he's just basically, like I said, it's almost like an oxymoron, you know, like I love, like he's a great actor, but wow, did he ever like overact? Like he was crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I can't disagree with you. And that thought came to my mind as well. And in other films, I would definitely agree that as well. I'm not going to say even this film I wouldn't disagree. I would disagree, but yeah, a lot of people have I've heard people criticize him for his accents in a lot of the films that he does, where these accents are, you know, kind of it was a Scorsese film that he's did that we've talked about as our first episode here, The Departed. A lot of people criticize that accent he busted out in that film, right? Like, and how over the top he was in that, right?
But he's talented. Like when he was in What's Eating Gilbert Grape, I mean, dude, he was fantastic in that. Like, just he
Much
played that
younger.
character to a T.
Yeah, and that's a delicate. Yeah, I know for sure.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
that's more.
yeah,
You got to be careful with how you put on a performance like that, right? But that's what got him
Yep.
recognized. Yeah, for
Yep.
sure. Yeah, mine is actually Rob Reiner. I thought he was great, but like you guys pointed out, the scene where he freaks out about the equalizer and all that kind of stuff, like you could tell he's just like doing this over the top yelling, like fucking like Rob Reiner stuff that we've seen before. You know, but he's definitely hamming it up, right? Like for the same reason, like I felt like Leo was kind of like, I wouldn't say phoning it in, but he was, you know, that whole scene with him freaking out about the equalizer, then jumping on the phone with the British accent was hilarious, right? Like I had no problem with that. But if I had to point to one scene or a person where I'm like, yeah, he's kind of, you know, he's overdoing it a bit here, I had to give it to him because I don't think he's as skilled an actor as maybe some of the other guys, although he was great in this film, right? So yeah, but I like your answer, to be fair with you. Although he had the best performance, since he was in 3 hours of the film,
Exactly.
there's not every scene is gonna be, you know, as good as the next for sure. And in the sense that he definitely overacted at parts. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
for sure.
I mean, on Rob's behalf too. I mean, this is where I thought he came out a little bit like a Jack Nicholson, or that's why I thought it was an overacting, or a Goodfellas, like a Martin Scorsese, another one of his like sort of mobster films where he would.
Pacino was a good reference that you made earlier too, because he's a major overactor. I love Pacino, but he overacts quite a bit in a lot of his films. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Huge ass. He like freaks out.
But I like him as an actor, Leonardo DiCaprio, and I thought about kind of what Rob said, because he is kind of overacting in that sense. But I took it as just skill and talent, and you know, just to try to portray being on those drugs and trying to, you know, it is, and to be a motivator like he is, right? You know, like he was supposed to be with all those guys, and to sell stocks and be on Wall Street, you gotta kind of act like you're overacting. You know what I mean? Behave like you're overacting, let's say.
All right. Well, those were our overacting awards that we just gave out there. Let us know in the chat, guys, if you had a particular person for this one in mind. Moving on to Rob here with the worst performance of the film. Was there anybody you disliked what they did in the film, Rob? And if you don't have an answer, that's fine. Sometimes people don't, but what do you think?
Again, that was one of the ones that I really left to the very end, because it was, I mean, I think everybody played a great role in that, but the only one, if I had to actually pick somebody, was whoever played, I can't remember the actor's name, I had it written down, but whoever played Steve Madden. I mean, I don't know,
was that the real Steve Madden? I don't know.
I thought it was, but I looked it up. It's not.
Okay, I'll look it up for you then, because I didn't look it up. I just didn't know, because I thought
it's not him. It's something Hughes, I think, now on that guy.
Okay,
I had it here. Where the hell is it?
You would have been older in 2003. You wouldn't have looked that young.
Yeah. Anyway, whatever. I thought I had it written down, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, I would have to say, just the way he was acting, I don't know. He was kind of like got up on the stage. He was trying to say something, and then he gets kind of pushed off the stage a bit. And like I said, if for me, if I had to pick something for worst performance, I would pick him maybe.
You know what? I think. What's his name?
Jake Hoffman.
Yeah, you know what? I like your answers. Yeah, I like your answers so much. I'm actually gonna pick that as well, Rob. Actually, I didn't have that written down. I had his the actress who played his first wife in the film. Yeah. I didn't think she was great. I've seen her in other things. I didn't think she's great as well. But and even in this film, I was like, she was all right. But yeah, I'm gonna go with your answer, Rob. Actually, I like that. I'm gonna change mine on the fly, because I didn't really put much thought into it. I was like, because of the fact that the person didn't do a great job at acting, I thought it was maybe like the real Steve Madden, right? I didn't really know. Like, I never looked it up. I don't know anything about Steve Madden, and Jay just brought up a good point. He would have been too young in this movie if that was actually the real I just assumed maybe it was like like a fun cameo for him or something, and so I didn't really put much thought into that. And you're right, I definitely think he was probably maybe we're giving him too much credit in the sense that I'm thinking maybe he was shying away from the stage and all that because he was trying to act like that. But you're right, I don't think he came off not favorably. So I thought maybe he wasn't a trained actor. That's why I thought it was maybe him, like the real person. So yeah, I like your answer.
I did too until I looked it up. So
yeah. What's the name of the actor, Jay, again?
Jake Hoffman.
Okay. Yeah, I got to go with him then for as well, like for that one scene that he was in. Yeah, really worst performance.
Jake Hoffman.
Yeah. All right. How about you, Jay?
Dude, you know what? I'll be honest with you. That was the hardest one I had. I don't have really a worst scene. I don't have my worst scene in that movie. I mean, I can understand where you guys are going with that. Steve Madden. I thought he was a fucking. The only Madden I knew was a fucking football player, so I didn't even know what the hell we were looking at. But yeah, I'll be honest with you.
John Madden.
Yeah.
That's John Madden. There you go. But no, yeah. Honestly, I can't think of that was one of the ones that I have empty. I have a shitload of other stuff written down, but I can't think of a bad performance. Yeah. I think
same.
They were all.
And that's one of those categories, though, I don't always expect us to have answers for, right? If you know, sometimes there is one where you're like, man, that guy sucks in that film or whatever, right? But and that happens, right? But a lot of these movies, if you just enjoy the movie for what it is and you like all the bigger roles, it's really hard if you're just going to pick apart somebody's smaller part, right? Yeah, but I agree. I with Rob just brought up about that person. I did feel that at the time, but I thought it was like actual real person. So I was like, oh, maybe they just threw him in there for a cameo, right? So, but yeah, even me saying the first wife, the actress played her, wasn't that great in that film. That was mostly me just not liking some of the other things she's done, right? Like, so when I seen her, I was just like, she's okay. Yeah. So, not to speak to this performance as much, right? So that's cool. Okay, so
it's not just that. I mean, I don't even think he has any other credits for anything else either. That your Madden guy either, right? If you think about it, yeah, I don't think he's got credits.
Max in the chat here felt that the worst performance was the real Jordan Belfort. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
I read because I looked that up because when I was looking up the cast, it said that Jordan Belfort actually played a part in there, and then I realized it was the guy at the end. But it also says that he was suing the actual movie Wolf of Wall Street for like $330 million or something. There was a link underneath it when I was looking at that when I pushed on him.
Or back when the movie came out.
I don't know.
Maybe he didn't like their depiction of him or something, right? Maybe.
But there was something to do with some kind of lawsuit he was going to have against the movie.
I'm not aware. I wasn't aware of that. I wasn't aware of that. Max also mentioned that it might be blasphemy, but I always thought DiCaprio was a little overrated. I've heard that from other people as well. Like, I don't think you're alone in that. I personally love the guy. I think he is, like I said, I think he is a good actor, but I think that some of the criticism that's come his way, as we just mentioned, some of the overacting, maybe some of the less than stellar performances that people felt that he's put in really good films, and maybe, you know what I mean, it was a little overhyped or because of who he is, but I agree, so I don't think you're alone on that, Max, but I gotta disagree with you there.
Yeah, I think he's a great actor.
Hey, Arv, what's going on? Shout out to Arv from Brews with the Crew. Got a good talk going on. Thanks, man. Yeah, no worries, man. You're listening just because he's busy with his hands. Yeah, not a problem. Yeah, if you don't got time to chat in the chat there, not a problem, man. We appreciate you tuning in and listening.
Absolutely.
Max mentioning he's asking if he's rubbing one out.
Yeah, Max, that's not the same thing, buddy.
TMI, man. TMI.
It's appropriate talk for the Wolf of Wall Street, all right? So
yeah, true enough.
There is a lot of talk about jerking off in this film, so it's okay. I'll accept it. Okay, so moving on here, Rob, I don't know. I think I sent you this one. I hope I didn't miss this category for you because I'm pretty sure I sent them all to you but this was our newest one that we added on a couple episodes ago. Did I send you Clutch Performance?
No. Yeah, you did.
Okay, good. All right, so I got. I'm gonna start us off with the Clutch Performance next for the next one. I got to give it to Margot here. Every scene I felt she was great in, and I was hoping to find a spot for her in my categories because, like, you know, her, Jonah, and Leo are the trifecta of probably the actors in this film, you know, that benefited the most and probably had most of the screen time, right, coming off of this film. I think. So I got to give it to her. I thought she was great. So I got to give Clutch Performance to her because you needed a good character to balance out like his home life and how much of a chaotic lifestyle this guy kind of, you know, had. And I even felt watching the movie a second time, not a second time, sorry, this is probably like my third or fourth viewing of the film, but watching it again this time, I felt that at first I thought she was like this wild, rambunctious woman that he met. But as the movie goes on, she does take a step back in terms of like her parenting and stuff like that. And to the point where at the end where he has that whole, one of the few very serious parts of the film where he takes the kid at the end there. I thought that she did a great job in that scene, and like, you know, and as he tries to run off all fucked up on the drugs with his child, right? And I didn't realize that she wasn't. I didn't realize that she actually at that point in the film, she's not as crazy and wild as he is. You know what I mean? Like at first, I thought I had this idea of her in my mind, I guess from the original viewing, that she was like, you know, she's introduced as someone like that, you know, like, but I think as time goes on, you see that that Jordan is way worse in this relationship. And he's like the toxic kind of, you know, you can't blame her for wanting to leave him at the end there, right? After that goodbye sex they have there. But,
exactly.
But she was just, you know, so, I think that's why she's got to be the Clutch Performance for me in this one. What'd you say, Jay?
I want to give it to the FBI agent there.
He was good. I got his name here.
So do I.
It's Kyle Chandler, Agent Patrick Denham. Yeah, he did good.
I had to give it to him because I think that scene when they're on the boat, after his lawyer told him not to go talk to him because he's smarter than him, just showed him there, and that was kind of like the beginning of the downfall sort of thing. So I feel like that was a major Clutch performance in the start of how it's all going to go down at the end. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because he kind of set him up for bribery and this and that.
Mm-hmm.
But you always wonder because he's got some of those things in his head. Like he looked at his buddy cop. Was he going to take the bribe? You know, because you know the way they snuck around, they tippy-toed around that conversation was really fun to watch, right?
Yeah.
And they're not incriminating them. Try not to incriminate themselves and try not to fuck themselves over. I mean, Leo ultimately did. I mean, but I think that performance by the cop, the FBI agent, and getting all that shit together, and he's saying that it was just thrown on his desk, and you know, you see little parts of him throughout the movie, but then he comes in at the end when it's crucial. So I think that I thought was a Clutch performance.
Yeah.
You know, not so much.
I like that answer. Yeah. No,
it did change the dynamic of the movie from there on out, right?
Hey guys, look what I just found in my pocket. A year's salary for you guys.
He starts just throwing it out.
Hey, money coupons.
Yeah.
Here, you want some fucking lobster for the road for your trip home? I don't even afford them.
Exactly. Right. But he kept calm. He played it smooth. You know what I mean? Like the cop, he played it smooth, and he did what he had to do. Right.
Yeah, he actually plays in a couple of other things that I watch. He's in Bloodlines, and he was also in Game Night as well, the movie Game Night.
Is he the bad guy in that movie? I can't remember. It's been a while since I've seen that.
I think he's the brother.
Yes,
The one that gets
he's
himself kidnapped.
the one that they go to the party at his house. That's right. Yes, I have seen him in other. See, I knew
Yeah.
I've seen him in a bunch of
Yeah.
things, but I didn't. I
He was
couldn't.
in Fargo, season 2.
It's been a while since I've seen season 2 far. Yeah, no, that's ensemble that
Oh,
cast.
actually, no, 2012. I think that's the original Fargo, man.
The original
No,
film.
it's not.
Yeah.
It's the original TV show. Sorry.
Yeah, the first season.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, I knew I've seen. I knew
No,
I've.
I didn't see Fargo. I'm seeing something totally different, dude. Never mind. I said Argo. I'm thinking I'm seeing an F.
Oh, Argo. Yeah, the Argo's the. Yeah, that's another
Yeah.
thing.
But come on, bro. Like, it's in red there. I can't see the F. Like, I can't see there's no F. Fuck off, all right? There's the F. All right.
How about you, Rob?
There's a few movies.
What's your favorite Clutch performance? Was it this guy in Fargo?
Yeah.
Godzilla.
Actually, you know what? I'm actually going to give it to Jonah. And the reason why is because I looked up everything because I wasn't sure what how much stuff he had done before this movie. And he actually did a shitload of movies before this one. But they're all those stupid stoner, not stupid, sorry. I mean, some of them were good, but like it's super
exactly.
bad,
Correct.
knocked up, you know. And this one, I don't know, he's still a druggie, but he was that perfect, smart-ass, annoying guy. I thought his character was fantastic, and I thought I loved it. I thought it was a great performance by him for this one.
He was the other one that I had in place for this category if I didn't give it to Margot Robbie. And like I said, he was also in my best performance one as well. So like, yeah, he was a lot of the time I wanted to put him into a lot of these categories because I think he's great in this film, right? And
he's fantastic.
I'm glad you brought that point up though, because I'm going to circle back to that point you just made later on in a category he did show up for me, but I absolutely agree with you. I mean, I love all those other films that you mentioned, the stoner comedies or whatever that, if you want to call them that.
They are, so they're good, but I mean, to me, this is more of a real film that he's in as opposed to the other ones. The other ones are more just, you know.
This was such an opportunity for him that he actually there's the story that he took like a scale, like basically what the actors like in these films, they get paid like a minimum to basically film in this because I guess there wasn't a lot of money to go around for this movie. And he took $60,000 salary to be in this film just because he wanted to be in this film and he had the opportunity to do it. Right. So like, yeah. I think what you're, you know, that, okay, I'll speak to it now. I mean, it'll come up again later, but I'll speak to it now. I think what you're realizing is essentially what a lot of other people did from this film is the fact that this was during Jonah's phase of becoming a serious actor, right? Like that's what you're kind of referring to. And I remember at that time, because he was in Moneyball with Brad Pitt. He had a very small part.
21 Jump Street.
Yeah, he had a very small part, which he directed and all that. Like he actually wrote, right? So wrote it. I don't know if he directed. I know he wrote it. And then he also was in a very small cameo part in the Django Unchained as one of the Klansmen. He had a very funny part in that movie. So yeah, it was.
Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
Yeah, well, that was more of a smaller.
That's what I mean. He's just a waiter in that, but it just, you know, like.
But I think between this and Moneyball and the 21 Jump Street, those few years, those like within like a 3-year period for him, that's when he kind of made the transition as like, oh, this kid can act, like, you know what I mean? Exactly. He can get serious roles moving forward if he really wants to. And I think over the last few years, he's kind of hasn't done as much, but he directed he first film, and which is a really good one. He lost a lot of weight. Yeah, I mean, he's been up and down with the weight throughout his whole career, but yeah, no, I remember that. I remember when that conversation was happening back then, when he was in films like this and Moneyball, which is another great film, where they're like, okay, yeah, this guy's a good actor, right? Because like you said, he was in all the Seth Rogen type movies before this, and then and even though those are great comedies in my opinion, they didn't really give him the opportunities that these films afforded him, right? So yeah, absolutely.
Well, he wasn't going to be nominated for best supporting actor in Superbad or in whatever.
You know what? I think Superbad got a nomination for something. That's a good film. Don't speak, badly on Superbad. Superbad's great.
I know it is. It's funny.
Yeah, it's a good one, man. I would have to check that, but I'm pretty sure that film itself got nominated for something, I would think. But anyways, I may be wrong. Comedies always get short shrift. That's the problem, right? That's why something like this, where it's like a dark comedy, like a more serious tone thing.
Yes.
Gets all this respect. Oh, you got Scorsese attached to it. Okay. But really, it's fucking 3 hours the guy's fucking around, right? Just like some of these other movies, right? I'm just saying, I agree with you. It's two different things in some sense, but in the other, at the same time, not really, right? So, okay. So what's our next one here? Jay, let's go into what's aged the best in this film. I think we all have the same answer.
I think mine will be totally different.
What'd you say, Jay?
Drugs and sex.
Yeah, they do.
Salutes, because I would have liked to see what those ever tried. Like, I'm not gonna, but I would have loved to know what those were like.
That's I'm not. Hey, listen, I'm not disagreeing. I know those aren't around anymore, so I never got to experience that myself. So
Lemon 714, I want to try the lemon 714, bro. 20 years aged. I want to take it. That's like right now. I'm taking it from the 80s to right now. It's 40 years age, man. That would have a little bit of a kick-in effect. But I think the sex and sex scenes and all that shit in the movies, those always age good, man. And I still think those were top notch in that film. I mean, they had everything from fucking Full Frontal. What the fuck is he saying?
I just put up Max's comment. Sorry to throw you off there, Jay. He said he's basically, talking about the opening of the film, and he replaced the little opening monologue that Leo has talking about his drug-fueled day for Jay. So let's. This is a great one. This is Jay if he was to open up Wolf of Wall Street. I smoke cigs to mellow me out. Tim Hortons to wake me back up again. Some nuggets to fill me up, and weed because it's fucking awesome. JT.
That's good. That's a good one, man. Yeah, nice, Max.
The perv of Wall Street. JT, the perv on your street in the car.
Yeah, right now. Yeah, exactly. I have the lights off too, and just the lights
on
inside.
So that's why I'm calling you a perv.
I kind of look creepy right now. People are running by, and I'm like, okay. I'm talking to myself in here.
But drugs and sex, you think, is aged the best in this film? Yeah, they do glorify them both, right? They do glorify them both in this film, and they're both great. I'm not gonna disagree.
Yeah, I didn't want to go with an actor like I said last time. I didn't feel like I should go with my answer with like an actor who aged the best. Right? But I think what aged the best was awesome. I mean, even what's her face? I mean, fuck.
Go ahead, Rob. What do you think aged the best in the film?
I'm going the route that I always do, man. When anybody says anything about that, and that's Cars. I think the Cars aged the best because you're talking about when you first went into that penny stock, you pulled into the beautiful 81 Toyota Celica GT, and from there he had I think it was a 61 Jag when they first met Donnie there at the coffee shop, and pulls in another XJS Jag, and from there you also had the 87 Countach, 87 Testarossa, the old 80s Rolls Royce. Like, it's just, for me, it's all about the cars. I think they age the best. So, I mean, don't get me wrong, drugs and sex is great, and I'm right there with you, JT. But for me, it's like I see cars and it's like, oh yeah, look at that, So a little weird that way.
I love both your answers on this one, and let's finish it off with this trifecta. I'm going to say it, Margot Robbie. He is spectacular in this film. Yeah, you got the drugs, the cars, the fast cars, and the sex for sure. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. See, Max said the same thing. Yeah, no.
Yeah, wow. Absolutely.
Wow, that's all I gotta say, man. She is so good looking, man. Jesus, yeah.
Yeah.
She's a good looking woman. Man, she's a good-looking woman. So yeah, I gotta go with the obvious on that one. So I gave that to Jay. Rob, if you want to start us off with what's aged the worst in the film, would you say?
I was trying to figure something out for that one for what aged the worst. So I just, again, because of what aged the best for me when I said Cars. I went along the line of what aged the worst, which would be like, you know, home phones, pagers, the way the car phones with the wires on them, you know what I mean? Like just shit like that, you know, people smoking inside restaurants and airplanes and all that kind of shit, I guess would say would age the worst.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I like that answer. That's good. I was for me, the only thing that I felt like stuck out to me in this film was, again, and I think it was good that they, especially if this actually happened to these characters, like in the book, if Donnie actually did offer him, but it's the crack smoking. Like I just felt like, yeah, I'm down with, like, you know, all the other drugs that they're talking about in this, like, but like even the ludes, which aren't around no more, and coke, I understand that for these rich guys and with drinking and all that makes sense to me. But the crack has always been like a drug that I don't see, like, and you hear about these rich guys, they do all this fucked up shit too. So I understand it, but like it doesn't come off well, I think, in any, like in a movie full of drugs and all this kind of thing. Like it just feels like a drug that they shouldn't but I get it. That's what I mean. They really push the whole boundaries of, like, these guys are degenerates, like they'll do anything to get high, like, you know what I mean? They'll go to any length, like he's a sex addict, you know, he'll fuck like the dirtiest women, like, you know what I mean? Like so I get why they did it, especially if that actually happened to those two characters. It didn't mix well with me in this film.
It was a funny scene.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm not saying I was turned on, but I was, in the sense that I'm like, I don't think you should glorify crack, like the pills and the coke and all that. Okay, I understand that, but I was just like, what? These guys are smoking crack? Like, this crack has always been looked down on in that sense, right? Even as a drug, it's not like a recreational drug. If you do crack, you're a crackhead. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like something you get a party. Like, I don't know. Just don't knock it till you try it. Max says in the chat.
Out of all those drugs, it's still the ludes that were the ones that you can't get anymore. Why is that?
Because wasn't that a government, like a pill, like
But it's still like, you know, it's still gotta have to be derived probably from an opioid or whatever. So
absolutely. I'm not saying what's the stuff that is in ludes is not bad. I'm not, you know, I'm not trying to. I'm just saying. I just think it's a dirtier, like, you know what I mean. Like, it's not. People will pop a pill, like, you know what I mean, socially, they'll take some coke socially. I think these people that do drugs, but I've never, like, you know what I mean, crack is just like one step too far. It's like heroin for me, even though you see, like, you know what I mean, like, I would never, right? So I just felt it didn't age well. Like, it didn't age good then, I'm sure, like, you know what I mean, like, I'm just like, I'm sure then it was new probably, and he's like, yeah, you know, as when they hit the streets, crack, it was like an epidemic and all that. I understand all that, right? So anyways, yeah, sorry, Rob, what were you gonna say there?
No, I was just gonna say, like he explained in the movie, like with the ludes, you're talking, the ludes was first prescribed to housewives in the 50s to help them sleep, but until some addict realized that if you fight off that sleep for 15 minutes, it gives you a fucking buzz like you wouldn't believe, and that's what happened, you know.
Well, I was actually going to ask you this in another of the categories here. I think it was unanswerable questions, because I had a question for you, as I was going to ask, and if you don't want to answer truthfully, I was going to ask, have you actually, because you're probably the only person that was around during the time that they may have been around, Rob. I was going to ask, have you ever tried that? Have you ever tried that?
Ludes? No.
Yeah. Okay. Were you around when they were around though? Like, as a
little bit. Yeah. There was that was shit. I think I was in high school. Some of that. Yeah, they were, but they're not a lot of them. They were like, more of my time was more the acid and, you know, hot knives and all that kind of crap everybody was doing, right? But but there were some ludes. There were some ludes around, you know.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you know, if it was around during my time, I probably would try it. But at the same time, like, the way they made it look in this film at certain points, I was like, yeah, that's like really messed up. Like, these guys got it, especially off those lemon ones. Like,
yeah. Oh,
I don't know. That doesn't.
The lemon 714, man, that'll knock you on your ass. But it's funny. I'll tell you something. Honestly, like, it's funny because when people look at me, I mean, you see me obviously, Nico, in person. Like, I'm a big dude, bald head, tattoos from head to toe. People always think I'm like a biker or whatever, right? Do you realize that it wasn't until about 3 years ago I first tried pot.
You serious?
And yeah, and about 5 years ago, I did mushrooms for one night. I've never even smoked a cigarette.
Right.
I've never done nothing, not until just the last few years.
That is interesting. Yeah, no, I felt, I never actually asked. Sorry, what's that, Jay?
You never smoked a cigarette?
Nope, never smoked a cigarette in my life, man.
Yeah. I mean, we've never had this conversation before, but yeah, like anything, I just assumed, like some people go through a phase of trying things out, like even if they don't stick with drugs and all that. So that's why I wasn't sure. I just assumed, right? You're right. But not because of how you look, just like, yeah, anyways.
Exactly. But I'll tell you, I hung out with some of the biggest drug people around in Mississauga, I'll tell you. But they always offered. I always just said, no, I'm good. And you know what? Their answer was always, great, more for me. I'm like, perfect. But no, I never had that. I don't know why. I just never had,
urge.
Yeah. But now,
let's be honest, I didn't smoke until I didn't start smoking weed on a steady basis until I was in my 20s. So
yeah,
I only tried it when I was like 13, didn't like it, and then never tried it again until I was in my 20s.
And now look at you.
For me, it was about three years ago, and mostly it's because for my back. Like for the pain, I'll do some THC. Like I've got the what do you call it, the vape, right? So I'll do it through that. But again, that's just mostly for the pain in my back. But
there you go. Max is impressed. He said
good. Yeah.
Before we get to his answer here,
I'm just upset that I missed all the good drugs. That's all.
Yeah, he did. 60s were the best though, from what I hear.
Here, let's before we get to Jay's answer here, just a couple comments here from the chat. Yeah, Arv agrees that the crack thing felt exploitative, although we got a good scene out of it. Agreed. Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Back, there's a scene where DiCaprio literally snorts coke out of a hooker's ass. The whole film is
that was at the beginning. Yeah.
The thing about this film, and I can't say that I've came up with this observation myself, but I heard someone else say it, is basically the Wolf of Wall Street is basically an extended cut of the Goodfella drug-fueled cocaine scenes at the end of the movie before he gets caught. Like the Goodfellas ends, the party's over. This is the total opposite. This is the whole thing's the party, and then you get like the rise and fall. It happens in all the Scorsese films like this. They show you all the good. It's all fun and games until all this shit hits the fan, and you go to jail, right, or something, or someone dies or whatever, right?
Exactly. Yep.
And that's what I've always liked about his films. Like he doesn't shy away from the fact that these aren't great people, but it doesn't mean that they weren't having a good time. Right. Like, and it doesn't mean that you can't have good times all messed up, but yeah, the fun times come to an end. And it's kind of like, it's also like, that's drugs, right? Like there's always like that too. Right. And I think that symbolizes like all that stuff, right? The rise and fall in these films that you see of these characters. Right. So I really like how he captures that, because it is and just like people that get addicted to drugs, it's all fun until it isn't anymore. Right. You get addicted or you have a serious problem. So yeah, that's why I like that he doesn't shy away from showing that, though. You can have both. Like, yes, it is all fun. It's all fun, but then all of a sudden one day, maybe it isn't anymore. Right. So,
well, you can have your cake and eat it too until you run out of cake. Right.
Yeah,
that's right.
And Arv's reminding us that there's no cops in this chat, so you don't have to lie about it. We'll try to be as honest as we can for you, Arv. Yeah. Oh, but anyways, Jay, go ahead. What was your age the worst? I don't think you gave us your answer.
Well, I was thinking the payphone shit. I always think that's hilarious.
Yeah.
The smoking in the films. I always think that doesn't go well, even though I'm a smoker, and it just drives me nuts because I got to watch a 3-hour film, and if I'm inside, I can't have a cigarette. It's making me want to have a fucking cigarette. So I don't like when they're smoking on film anymore. All right? Drives me nuts. But that, and you know what I noticed stood out? They had a couple black people that were his servants. I know they would pay them well and stuff like that there, but I don't know. That felt wrong. That felt wrong at this time, maybe in age right now that we're in. It just felt wrong to me. I know they were talking about a different time, but they were.
You're talking about the woman housekeeper, probably particularly, right? Like the help, essentially, right? There's
Yeah,
been
for some
movies
reason
about
it
that
didn't sit
now.
well
Yeah.
with me. I don't know why. I'm not,
Yeah.
you know, I'm not the most politically correct person or whatever, but I mean,
No.
for some reason, for some reason that didn't sit well with me. I mean, it just
Yeah, fair
it
enough.
reminded me.
Yep.
It reminded me of, I don't know,
And
not
that's
so good times that there's right,
that's a
and it's
result
all showing.
Yeah.
Well, it's showing,
times.
people with a lot of money taking advantage of the people.
Yeah.
They talk about right now the diversity and stuff like that. It's not equal and stuff like that.
Well, it's like the last one we talked about. We talked about The Shining and how they, used the N-word in that film. And when we watched it, and like again, Scorsese, Tarantino, there's lots of films where they, throw it around, but that one, it just didn't feel necessary at all. I was just like, not that it ever is necessary, but you would expect some characters to say it, like especially in their character, but like that was just like The Shining just felt like really unnecessary when we watched. I remember that, and that stuck out to us when we watched it. Yeah. So like things like that, yeah, absolutely don't age well in some sense. What's that?
I mean, even the word retard stood out to me again. That was another one. Like, I don't know if because I just feel that if stuff like that's said or shown all the time, it just keeps it in people's head. It keeps everything fresh. It keeps hate fresh. It keeps all that stuff fresh. And regardless if you're trying to portray it in a film or not, to make a point, you're still keeping it in people's heads. If the next generation grew up and didn't see that kind of stuff, maybe it'd be a different style of generation. You know what I mean? I don't know. I could be talking out of my high ass right now, but
no, I get it. Yeah, it makes sense. That didn't stick out as strongly to me this time around, but I agree with you. I get what you're saying. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
sure. Hey, Richard, what's going on? JT, you get what's up? So Richard. Okay, so next category here. Let's bring up the next one. What do I got here? Let's go to nitpicks. Now, I didn't really have much for this one. I like the movie for what it is. But I gotta say something that does stick out to me. And I'm not a student of film, so if there's like something that or cinematography or anything like that, so maybe I'm just wrong by saying this, but I noticed that sometimes, and it did notice it in a couple times in this movie, Scorsese has a thing that he does where the camera, and it's not even maybe him, or whoever does the cinematography usually, but the camera work, sometimes it gets like a little unfocused or shaky. And I feel that sometimes he does, like, at the start, like when he's in the helicopter when it lands, and then before he gets out of the and I know that maybe that's to represent like how fucked up he was getting out of the helicopter or something like that. Yeah. But I don't like when he does that, and there's these slow-mo kind of like weirdly shot hazy moments, and he does it in a few of his films for whatever reason, and it's the whole film doesn't do that, but there's a couple of points where it does that, and it really kind of takes me out of it. It's always bugged me. I don't know why that is. It is a nitpick of mine, and I find he does it in a few, whoever he works with, or if it's him himself, it's just like it's been in a few of his films. Like, it's not just this film. So it's something that sticks out to me quite a bit at this point. So when I saw that in the couple scenes in this film where it did it, it kind of bugged me a bit. So it's nothing terrible, but yeah, that's why this is the nitpicks category. It's something that just kind of, oh yeah. So Arv actually just brings up a great, the long takes are his favorite shots. Absolutely. Like in Goodfellas, when he walks down the driveway and he smacks that guy across the street. Yeah, no, I agree with that. Or when he walks in the bar where he's saying hello to everybody, introducing him to his wife. Absolutely. The long takes are the best. I agree with you, but yeah, Goodfellas, especially Raging Bull. Yeah. But Goodfellas is, I think, famous for that one, but, the Copacabana, exactly. Yeah. But it's that little moments. And do you guys know what I'm talking about? Like Rob, like JT.
Oh yeah.
It bugs me. I don't like when he does that. I don't like it.
Yeah. No, I get it for sure. I know exactly where you're coming from.
And also,
I don't get that part, but I don't get what you're talking about with this. I gotta go back and look at that part.
Okay.
I know what you're saying. But yeah, I get what you're saying right now, but I didn't see that. I mean, I didn't notice it. Maybe it's just me not watching as somebody who really cares how it's filmed, but like that way. But I mean, I didn't notice that, so maybe that's something I'll go back and take a look at.
Yeah.
If I notice something like that.
I mean, if it doesn't bother you, didn't notice it, that's good, right? But for me, it's something that I've always noticed, like about some of his films. Yeah, one of the the one where it's overused the most, but I think it's because of some of the camera work and some of the fighting scenes that they're trying to pull off. And it's not even one of my favorite movies by him, but although I know some people like it because of Daniel Day-Lewis's performance, is Gangs of New York. He does it all over the fucking place in that film, and it really bugs me. And I think it's a good film. I just not one of my favorites, but outside of some of the performances, I think Daniel Day-Lewis is really good in that. But yeah, and the other nitpick I have, which I couldn't disagree with more when I first saw this film. I know some people had this criticism, but seeing it a couple times since then, I gotta kind of agree a little bit. I think you could have tightened it up a bit. It was very long, and although I enjoyed my whole time watching it, I think you could have tightened it up just a little bit. Like some of these things, I think you could have left on the extras on the the Blu-ray. You know what I mean? Like some other funny moments where it doesn't really add too much to the story. But that I mean, obviously they had a blast making this, and I think at Scorsese from this film, you've seen that more and more, that he really just. It seems like apparently he edits these films down still. So to think that they but in comparison, this movie in comparison to something like The Irishman, every scene seemed important in that film. Even the scenes that were just funny moments and stuff, like it seemed added to it. While this one, I think they could have made it maybe 2.5 hours instead of 3 hours, maybe tightened it up a little bit. Don't get me wrong, I loved everything in it. All the moments were fun and
for sure.
But I think they could have made it a little bit shorter. And when I first saw it, that was a big criticism about this film. I think in
theaters, the orgy scene.
Yeah, exactly.
Really?
It was funny, but no point. It added nothing to the story, right? And I know a lot of it, there was lack thereof, some story at certain parts of the film. Right? But I think if they took out some of those moments, the story would have been a little bit more well-rounded out, right? So I gotta agree with that. I gotta agree with that criticism, and I didn't feel that before, but I definitely felt it this rewatch. Whereas like The Irishman, although that's still pretty new to me, I've only watched it like I think the 2 times that we talked about it on the show. I watched it that time. Although long, I didn't realize it. Where this one, I was like, this is getting a little long in the tooth here. So I felt like, yes, we get it. They're drug addicts. I was just like, 3 hours is a little much. I think the running time may have been even just over 3 hours. There was a lot, man. So
it's like 3 hours, 2 minutes or something, I think.
Yeah. So I think they could have even, 15, 20 minutes even. They could have this movie, right? But,
even some of the scenes with that Aunt Emma, like where they're sitting on the bench and, he's like, is she hitting on me? And then she's like, is he hitting on me? Like, it really didn't need to have any of that shit in there, really. I mean, I get it, but it's, like you said, if they were to take little scenes like that and cut them here, there, and everywhere, then all of a sudden you're down 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah. What do you think, Jay?
You needed to know why Aunt Emma was there.
True, I get it, yeah.
If that happened in real life, that's kind of fucked up, but yeah. So,
yeah, no kidding.
But, so... But back to the point, like little nitpicks, like Nico said, it being long, I get it. I still liked every performance, but I don't think they should have took anything out. But it is a long movie, just like any of the Scorsese films. I think that's one of my biggest nitpicks about his films. They're good, but they, you gotta have to sit down and you gotta really, plan to watch it if you're gonna sit down and watch it. It's almost like watching our cast, right? So. If you got a plan doing it, you got a plan doing it. But that was one of my nitpicks. But there was also that I wasn't in it. I mean, I missed out on a pretty good time. Fuck. That's really it. I mean, the whole movie, I think it showed how that whole economy was going and everything down the drain and how everything switched around in the 80s. I think they did a great job on the whole movie itself, on the way so I don't really have too many nitpicks, right? I just think it worked out good.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Rob?
Maybe maybe to go along with your cinematography, there was little scenes where the car was there and then it wasn't there, like when they're fighting, him and his wife are fighting in the limo, because he gets out of the limo after he's doing the coke off the other one's tits, right? And she's standing outside the hotel room. So when they step back and they film at the scene,
the limo's gone all of a sudden, right?
Then after, when they get close up to them again, you see it drive off.
So
that kind of threw me off. there's little things like that, right?
Something I came across on IMDb when I was looking it up earlier is the fact they said there's the scene where he grabs his daughter at the end when he tries to run away with her. Apparently, he crosses across one of the rooms where the crib would have been in, like, and apparently she was like, you know what I mean, like, so like the fact that they left that in, even though he's grabbing the kid from like apparently from that room. And he's actually running past the room. It didn't make any sense, right? So, like, I didn't catch that, but I read it on IMDb. Apparently, it's something that the fans, I guess, noticed. But, like, little stuff like that. If you do end up catching it, it's unfortunate. You know, it happens a lot of films sometimes as much as, you know, things are left. Sometimes a lot of great stuff is left on the cutting room floor. That's where the movie is really made, they say, right? But at the same time, sometimes little errors like that, you can't really cut around them without reshooting. So, I agree, though. When you see things like that, it takes you out of the film a little bit. Then it's disappointing, but yeah, no, for sure.
But I think the scene itself must have been, because it was a great scene after. I think that's why they really couldn't take it out. You know what I mean? Like to redo that whole scene, it would have been nuts. But that's why I kind of let it pass. But it took me out of it to kind of figure out, did that really just happen there? And you know, those little nitpicks with the camera, they do it in everything. They did it in The Shining. They do it in a lot of movies if you pay attention, right? If you're focused enough on the movie, right?
Yeah. How about you, Rob?
Again, it was like almost like the worst performance one where I kind of left the nitpick to the very end because I wasn't sure which way you were going with that question. Like you said, like whether it has something to do with like the cinematography or whatever like that. But for me, nitpick, I went more on different types of scenes and stuff. I guess kind of like what you were saying about how you run across and there's a crib and all that. But for me, it would be like when he calls the FBI agent, like, you know, invites him to the yacht. Who the fuck does that? Like, you know, like you're trying to stay under the wire here. You know, you're inviting the FBI to your boat to try to, you know, there's that. And the other one that was, I guess I could kind of say as a nitpick is, I'm sorry, but if I'm a captain of a yacht and I know there's going to be a storm, I don't give a fuck who you are or how much money you have. I'm not fucking going in the goddamn boat into 50-foot fucking waves. I'll tell you that right now. You can go to hell. So and then they end up having to get rescued.
He's just like, yeah, you know, it's gonna be a bit choppy, you know, barrel down the hatch. It's gonna be a little bit choppy. Yeah, you know, I think we can do it. Yeah, he's just rolling with it. He's just like,
yeah.
He's like, okay,
shit like that is for me is a nitpick. Like it's like, come on, dude. Like really, like fuck off. Like seriously.
Cut to the scene where there's like a huge wave about to engulf.
I know, it smashes the windows out or whatever. It's like, oh my god, come on.
That's funny.
Yeah.
All right. Jay, actually one that I passed over. I actually meant to do this one earlier. I missed it. That guy award or that woman, whatever. Who'd you give that to, Jay? The one where the award that we give to somebody where it's a smaller scene. You know the actor, you've seen the actor in many other things, but yet you don't really know their name. And you're like, hey, it's that guy from that other thing, right? This is the award. I really like this one. And in this movie, there were several people I couldn't pick, to be honest with you. But yeah, go ahead, Jay. Let us know who you picked.
My pick was, until I looked it up and who it was, I didn't know it was Jon Favreau, right? Because it looked different.
Yeah.
It was only in a couple quick scenes, right? Right?
Yeah.
There was, so I mean that would have had to be my initial one. So I mean I had another one, but I mean I'll let you guys tell yours. But I mean I think until I realized who I was looking at and I looked it up and I seen all the shit that he's in. Yeah.
Right.
And I remembered where I seen him from.
Right.
I felt like an idiot, but he was only in little scenes,
Yeah.
so it was hard to get a good glimpse of his face. It was hard to get, near the end. I think he had a little bit bigger face.
He had a mustache too. He normally doesn't rock a mustache, but he had a little mustache
No.
in this one, right? Yeah.
He was in Friends too, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been in a lot of shit. He did the Jungle Book. He did all that
Yeah.
crap. He did, like there was all kinds of shit. I didn't even know.
Yeah, Jon Favreau, what the fuck? Yeah, Jon Favreau was in the movie. If you don't recall, he was the FCC guy that he had the end with his father. They were all friends, and he warned him before he actually got busted by them to walk away and just pay them off. But that's what that whole scene goes up to, where he's like, I'm not fucking leaving. And it just sucks. I mean, the FBI would have got off his ass at that point. They cleaned. he actually walked away and and actually admitted to some of the things that they were doing and stepped back away from the company. But he doesn't, right? I mean, that's the greed, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Who'd you have, Rob, for your that guy?
Well, again, I was thinking of Jon Favreau, but I thought no, that's. I mean, I wasn't gonna go with it. And for me, I went with Nolan, which was the lawyer. His real name is Robert Colhesi.
Yes.
Anyway, he plays in Blue Bloods. And as soon as I saw him, I'm like, I heard the voice. I'm like, fuck, I know that voice, right? When I was rewatching it yesterday, and then when I saw, I was like, oh yeah, shit, I forgot he was in this, and because I watched Blue Bloods, right? So, and so it's like, oh yeah, it's that guy. So that's perfect reward. There you go.
Yeah, exactly. There's always, I always have the most fun with this one because there's always you see, like, we always have fun trying to remember who you're seeing in certain films, even though you don't know, because they're not always the top billed actors, but these guys, a lot of these guys, they get a lot of work, right? Max just pointed out someone. I was trying to figure out who it was yesterday, and I couldn't figure it out. Yeah, Spike Jonze was the penny stock.
That's right.
That's who it was. Thank you for that. I was wondering because I'm like, I know I've seen this guy before. Yeah. So that was him. Okay,
exactly,
awesome. That's the guy who said he was gladly give him a blowjob if he sold 10,000.
If you could sell 10,000, yeah.
I'll gladly do it, or whatever the hell he said. Like I mentioned, I had a couple of people I could have picked for this, but ultimately, I went with what's his name here? I went with the actor. I went with Captain Ted. Captain Ted. Shea Wiggum, who I've seen in plenty of other films and TV. I know I really liked him from what the hell is that called now? Now I'm gonna forget. That's one show I like him on HBO. He was in American Hustle. He was great in that. I'm just looking at his credits right now. I know he was in another Scorsese movie. He was in Fargo, the TV series. That's right. Boardwalk Empire. That I like. I love. Yeah. So that was an underrated show. I felt didn't get the love ever that it needed to continue on, but I liked it as a period piece. He was the brother of Nookie Thompson in that show, and that's when I really got to know that actor. And since then, I've seen him in a ton of stuff. He's great in American Hustle too, as well, which I just saw in his credits again. Yeah, he's great in that film. This guy has I mean, I can go over all his credits, but he's really always good. And I thought I really laughed at that boat scene, how he was like confidently trying to like be like, we'll make it through. Yeah, this could be
buckle down. Yeah.
So what I see,
I don't care who you are, man. I ain't going out to that sea.
I think your Boardwalk Empire, there's that guy that the star, what's his name on Boardwalk Empire? He's the Equalizer.
Yeah, he was on the TV. You're right, Steve Buscemi. Yeah. He was on the TV in that Equalizer episode there, where Rob Reiner was watching. Right, I saw that. Yeah. I was like, oh shit, Steve Buscemi. Yeah.
I noticed that too. I thought it was him, and then now you just mentioned the name, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, what's his name? Yeah.
The other one I almost gave it to was this guy. I've never known his name, but again, I've seen him in a lot of things. Was Ethan Suplee. He was the bigger, heavier set guy that's basically in that first, when you go to the penny stock place, he's like, how the fuck did you do that? That guy, he was in Mallrats, Kevin Smith. So yeah, he's been in lots of stuff. And he was in a lot of the scenes in the film, although he didn't have any lines. He had like a lot of moments where he's in the background, or even in that scene where that gay orgy thing, he's the guy, one of the guys that's like looking at the Chinese guy, like, what the hell? They hung him over the balcony. Yeah, that guy as well. I was almost going to give it to, but I got to give it to the other dude I just mentioned, because he's really good. I like him in a lot of stuff. He's a bigger actor, I felt, but for having such a small role. But again, like, a lot of these guys are like, oh, a Scorsese movie, sure, I'll show up, right? Days work, whatever, a couple days work. So yeah, no, for sure, it's good to be in a Scorsese film, no matter what. I would love to be in the Scorsese.
Well, they're shooting a movie right here in Milton, downtown Milton, with the
Man from Toronto. Yes.
Yeah. So Kevin Hart is here. Yeah, Woody Harrelson was here today. We were So it was kind of cool out here. Yeah. So
fuck, man. I know somebody who got a picture with him.
Max, thanks for pointing that out. I knew I heard the screenwriter's name before, Terrence Winter. He also wrote who wrote this film, also wrote The Sopranos, created Boardwalk Empire. So no wonder. So I'm a big fan of him as well, the screenwriter.
Yep.
Yeah,
There you go. Yep.
I saw his name this time around, but I didn't look into his credits. So, but I knew I had seen his name before. So yeah, absolutely. No, that's great. Okay, so that's that one.
So much information he's got.
Max has got all the info, man. All right, so a couple
He's allowed to leave his house and he just spends a lot on his computer.
Yeah.
So only a couple categories left here, guys. The big ones, and who just did that? That was JT, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so Rob, you have the honors of busting out who won the movie, who benefited the most, or overall you felt just like dominated this film. Who do you think won overall? Who won this film?
For me, I'm gonna go and maybe it's a different route what you guys are gonna go through too, but I'm gonna go Margaret Robbie. And the reason why I'm saying that's because she did nothing. Not nothing before that. I did actually have it written down here. She, she starred in some Australian stuff to start with, like independent films. And she was in the soap opera Neighbours.
Yes, that's what
you know. Yeah, and the ABC drama, Pan Am for 1 year. Then she did Wolf of Wall, and then all of a sudden she became big. So I think I'm gonna give her the career peak, I guess it would be, for her. Like it just because she shot up from this movie.
Yeah. This isn't career peak. That's also another category. Is that the one you just gave us?
What'd you give me?
This is who won the film. This is different than career peak.
Same thing. No, I've got them actually. Well, there you know both of them now. So, but yeah, I gave them actually both to her because it just I don't know. I thought with her, with being a newer type actor, she had not as big a role as obviously as what Leo and Joan and them had, but I mean, she was in it enough where she actually held her own pretty good. You know, got that Brooklyn accent, you know, pretty funny, you know, down. So I don't know. I thought she was pretty good.
Yep. I know that was the other answer I didn't go with. So I absolutely agree with you. She did benefit huge from this movie. So she did absolutely win this movie in a sense. You know, next thing you know, she's Harley Quinn. Next thing you know, she's in that Tonya Harding movie, right? Like she's getting big roles, and this is having that, you know, naked scene in this definitely didn't hurt, I'm sure, for her career. Like
I'm sure. Yeah.
She's done very well for herself, but not to single her out and say that's the only reason. That she's a great actress. I think she's great. I really like her, but I did definitely fall in love with her during this movie. And and then there's the, you know, her in the new Quentin Tarantino Once Upon in Hollywood, she was cast. So yeah, she's done a lot for sure since this film. So I can't disagree with you there. For me, it's circling back to what you mentioned earlier. It's got to be Jonah Hill for me, because like we mentioned, he was taken seriously more as an actor, I think, moving forward from around this period of time with this and Moneyball and all that. I gotta say he benefited the most, I felt, off of this movie. But Margot Robbie is right there as well, honestly. So I agree with you in that sense. But yeah, I gotta say Jonah for me not only impressed me as one of the best performances of this film, he definitely benefited, I think, as, like I said, looked at as a real actor moving forward from this, right? So and nominations and everything, right? And the fact that he was in a fucking Scorsese film. I mean, I've heard many around this time of him saying that he grew up watching Scorsese's films and obviously is a huge Goodfellas fan and all that, right? So for him, it was a dream come true. So I think he would tell you the same thing, right? So, but go ahead, Jay, what do you think?
That's what I had, because I thought, like I said in the beginning, when I said that they fed off each other perfectly, I honestly think that he stole the movie in his role, because he ultimately, you know, even in the end, I mean, he ultimately, we don't know what the heck happened, right? I mean, I don't think he ended up. I sometimes I always forget the ending, but ultimately, I think because he played so well off of Leo's character. And how I think just him being him helped out Leo's character too. If to say too much, that's why I feel he won that movie in this role. I mean, I could say Megan Margot, but I'm gonna say what, because she showed her titties for a little while, and that one became famous after that? No, I mean, not for anything. She was a good actress and stuff like that, but in that
Yeah.
movie. But I think Jonah Hill. I'm with Meeks on that one. I think Jonah Hill actually stole that movie.
Yeah. All right, and then we got a couple comments here. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Arv mentioned Jonah Hill's movie mid-90s wasn't bad either. I love that movie. That's the movie I was referring to earlier. I couldn't remember. He wrote and directed that. Great film about his childhood. Yeah, we talked about it on the cast one episode. I mentioned it to you, JT, if you remember his childhood in LA, you know, being into skateboarding and rap, hip hop and all that. Like it's on Netflix.
Right.
I hope they haven't removed it because I know it was on Netflix. It's a great movie. Check that out if you haven't, guys. I think that's the first film he wrote and directed that he did a few years back, and now and it was really, really good. I highly recommend it. Max mentioned Jonah Hill went from the fat guy in a Seth Rogen movie to the fat guy in a Scorsese. yeah, absolutely. Great.
It's so true.
Jonah Hill and Michael Cera were pretty much playing Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg in Superbad. Yeah, Arv mentions. Yeah, absolutely. Those are the guys who wrote the film, and that's why they cast him that way. Yeah, no, Arv, for sure. I again, I'm a huge fan of Superbad.
Oh, yeah.
Call that. Yeah. Okay, so now our second last category. I guess we should have ended out on who won the movie. I always forget that, but career peak, basically in this one. Now, this one is a little harder to answer sometimes, so I'll quickly explain it for you guys. Basically, this is either a moment, an actor's moment in their career, if they were in this film, if we felt that they peaked around this time in terms of their performances and things. Sometimes people, they're at the height of their career, and then after a certain film that they're in, you know, it just goes downhill in terms of the quality of stuff that they've been in, or just the roles that they actually take. And then other times it's like in the middle of a fantastic run of theirs in their career, right? Which is what I'm going to actually more be leaning to in this, just to properly answer this question. So Rob, you felt that this was Margot's, you had mentioned, yeah? Okay. How about you, Jay? What'd you put for this one?
I think for career peak, I think I have Leonardo DiCaprio for this one.
Wow, interesting.
I don't see too many films that he came out with crazy afterwards. I mean, besides
he won the award for that friggin' bear movie where he got mauled, which I didn't get. I thought it was fine, but I was like, oh, okay. Like, I know that was more about the severity of the role, I think, or the director and all that, right?
Exactly,
but I was like, really, after everything he did, like, this is the one he won for? Because there was so long people were saying that he was, you know, is he ever gonna win? And then he won for that movie in the woods. I don't know, The Revenant. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. I liked it, but I just didn't. Yeah, I agree. That would probably be his peak in the sense he won the award for it, though. But I agree with you, Dave, if you're saying that is part of that.
He had like 4 or 5 films after that were maybe 3 films that were actually good, like that one there that you were saying, and the Revenant, and he had, you know, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and after that there was nothing really. I mean, there hasn't been anything for a while, right? So
yeah,
he doesn't act like just in everything these days, though, right? He carefully picks his project. You might get
now
one.
He does.
Yeah, you might get 1 or 2 movies out of him a year now. No, sorry, one movie every 1 or 2 years you might get out of him, right? At this point in his career, he produces a lot now, right? He's a big producer. He's more involved in that side of things, right? He wants to be behind the camera as opposed to in front of the camera now, right? So
we all seem to want to go that way now.
The Revenant, I did hear that, Max.
Hey, what are you fucking?
Oh, poor JT, man. Jeez.
Hey.
You get knocked around, don't you, right, bud?
It's okay, bro. It's all love.
Yeah, it is.
Max,
you know what?
Max, listen, I was gonna let it go, Jay, but he caught it, so I'm gonna throw it up there because I also heard you say that, but I was just like, okay, let's just keep going.
I knew I said it. I just played it off smooth.
I gotta go with McConaughey on this one. Not in the sense that he's, but like I mentioned earlier, this was part of the McConaissance at this period of time. This is when I think between this and Dallas Buyers Club for winning for that, and that other show, True Detective, and Mud, and Lincoln Lloyd, like there was a period of like a few years here where every single thing he was in, I watched. He was great in it, and and he knocked it out of the park every single. So it's not that I feel that he's peaked, but he was done for me, like in terms of like all these romantic comedies, the shirtless McConaughey era, as I like to call it. All you saw was him shirtless on a beach somewhere. But as soon as he came back with like this and Dallas Buyers Club, you're like, there you go. This guy can act. Like I forgot about this freaking guy. You know what I mean? Like honestly, like so at least I did. And see this, I was like, it made me think he was great again. So I gotta say that this was a peak in terms of a great run that he had following this film and during.
Dazed and Confused is still one of my best for him, man.
Yeah. But
I love Dazed and Confused.
You know what made
he is
it
good in that,
made him so famous was his Lincoln commercials. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Driving around. Put him in a Lincoln. Don't let him say anything, and that's it.
Bro, he has a movie where he's the Lincoln lawyer. I don't know if you've ever seen that one where he's a lawyer that works out of his Lincoln. This is before
that was funny.
It's awesome.
I'm driving a Lincoln. Yeah, I know. It's a Rob, I know Jay loves Dazed and Confused, for that line though. The girls, they all stay the same. Yeah,
I keep getting older and they stay the same age. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. It's awesome, man. I love that. Actually, for me, for an all-time, I love this. Like, I love The Wolf of Wall Street, but I think if somebody were to actually say my all-time favorite movie, it'd have to be Dazed and Confused. Because to me, that's exactly kind of like how I grew up. Like, it's just
all right.
Yeah. Like, it's just awesome. I love that. Last day of school, initiation, all that kind of shit. Like, that's,
Like White Boy Rick.
What's that?
White Boy Rick. Yeah, I know. I saw that one. Yeah. So let's just go to the chat here. Yeah, they're mentioning other stuff. Mud is great, Nico. Good call. Yeah, absolutely. I like that one a lot. Interstellar, he was great in that film. It was a little confusing to some, I understand that, but I thought he did a good job. Max says to keep it all the way real though, How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days is a guilty pleasure of mine. Sure. I'm not gonna knock it. I like the film.
Funny, though.
No, I'm not knocking it. I just think that all those films where he's like leaning on somebody, it just like it became, that's what McConaughey was known for. And I think he did a little detour in terms of like, again, the serious actor roles, right?
Yeah. He won the women over, and then he's just said, I'll bring over the men now.
Yeah. And they're mentioning the Jim Carrey parodying the Lincoln commercial. Yeah, those were funny. I did watch that. Absolutely. Yeah. Ghost of Girlfriends Past. Exactly. Listen, I agree with you. I like that one too. That's with what's his name? What the fuck's that actor's name? We just talked about him not too long ago. That plays opposite him in that. But again, that's the same type of film that he was making around that time, right? So I can't. Yeah, I like it, but yeah. Okay. So last but not least,
you guys are laughing at me because I watch Friends.
Jay, why don't you hit us? Do you have any unanswerable questions here for the last category?
Yeah. You think the cop would have took that bribe? You think he had second guesses at the end when he was thinking about it? What do you think?
I don't think he would have taken the bribe, but I felt it was like a moment of like, was it all worth it? Like, or like a realization that he made about his lifestyle that he caught himself in at that moment in time, saying like, yeah, like this is my life. And I get no, like, not that he doesn't get any credit for it though, but the guy is still rich. That's what he said. I almost forgot I was rich at the end of the film as he goes to jail. Like he's going to have an easy time in jail and come out rich and probably still be able to make a living for what he got caught for, while this guy's stuck taking the subway. So I don't think he would have taken the bribe, but I definitely think he was second guessing maybe his choice in life at that moment in time, because
career path, probably.
Yeah, I think so. I don't think he would have taken it though, still, because he's chosen a lot in life, right? Like what do you think, Rob?
I had a couple. Again, I actually had text you because I wasn't quite sure how to take this question. That's why I texted you, just to see what your thoughts about it was. So when I kind of went back over everything and I was looking through, I had a couple because basically you said it's like unanswerable questions. Did Donnie get arrested? Like
He
you see
did.
at the end where he's sitting there deleting, you know, and the
Yeah.
feds come in, they arrest everybody else, but you don't see him. You see him cowering down in the office, but you really don't know what happened there, right? And the other one I had too was, how the hell did the FBI get that note that he slid over to him to tell him, don't say anything, you know, I got a wire on, and all of a sudden they show up at his house and, you know, you're going to jail, here's the note. How the fuck did they get the note?
You're right.
Donnie was working.
I thought the same thing.
Donnie was working with them?
I thought the same thing. But they don't go as far as they didn't explain that though. I think you're just
Maybe it's the book.
right. But that's what I mean. I think that's actually a really good answer, Rob, because you're right. I think it takes, that's the one thing in the film where you got to take a little bit of credit and actually be like figure it out for yourself, right, as a viewer, right? Like what exactly happened there, because I think at that point it really didn't matter about what happened to everybody that he was working with because he ratted them out. It was more about what happened to him following him going to jail, which is where we see at the end with him doing the motivational speaking, whatever the hell he's there, those classes, you know, get rich quick kind of business type, right? Yeah, but the thing is with the movie, with the timeline that they set out, they said that not Donnie, but the other guy, he died 3 years later. That drug dealer, the Ludes guy, Doug. He died 3 years later, and but yeah, you're right. He probably did snitch him out. Yeah, so it couldn't have been that guy, but that guy stood tall. That guy went to jail and didn't snitch Donnie out. He went to jail for 3 months, and then he came back out, right? So it definitely wasn't him.
You find out, wasn't it his wife that was banging the lawyer?
Yep.
Yes.
The banker. Switzerland guy.
Yeah. They were saying that was, but that's the thing with these Scorsese films, the same thing, like with the Goodfellas and all that. You see all these events unfold at the end, but I don't think they dedicated as much time as they normally would because it wasn't as intricate a story, like plot in this film. Yeah. It was based off, I guess, the real life. But you're right, they could have definitely, if they cut out again some of the shenanigans that were going on, they could have further explained what exactly went on there. So I think you kind of had to like figure it out a little bit for yourself. That's a good one. I like that. I put I basically put for you guys a question. Does this film or any of these films that have to do with it in general, or maybe you guys just generally understand it, does any of this make it easier for you guys to understand brokers and how Wall Street works and all that? Because that is always confusing to me. No matter how many movies I watch these guys do their thing, there's so many films based on this, right? The Big Short, there's, you know what I mean? Like,
Trading Places.
Yeah, it just seems like they just go into a room and everyone's on phone. I mean, I'm just, you know, I'm not smart in that regard. Like I always feel I learn a little something new every time I watch a film that has something to do with the stock market and all this kind of stuff.
Not me.
Right? Broker and all that kind of stuff, right? But it's always been confusing to me, though. You agree? Yeah. I don't know.
100%. I have no clue.
Yeah.
Well, I get the gist of it. I figure I know how. I mean, I actually have a buddy that reminds me of Leonardo in this movie sometimes when it comes to these penny stocks and how he talks about them. So,
right.
But yeah. So I kind of get what they're talking about, especially with these penny stocks, especially because lately you can do your own trading and stuff like that.
Right.
And plus it has some stuff that's invested. So I kind of know what's going on, right? I follow it a little bit, but I try not to overdo it because it'll drive you fucking nuts, bro. It will.
It's very intimidating, right? And you got to be really invested in it, right? Like to understand, like, and even they don't really understand.
You gotta want to gamble,
right?
Like penny stocks too are big gambling fucking things. He sold the fucking stock, 10,000 stocks to a fucking garage, bro. That was no bigger than my car.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, and that's the kind of gamble you're taking with penny stocks, and you're hoping one day this is going to go right through the roof. And even if pennies, even if they go up $10, $15, that's a lot of money depending on how many fucking pennies you put in.
Right.
Right. So I mean, so that's why I can see why these people get hooked on it, and the way he did, because he realized he can sell it like that. But no, I mean, I get the gist of it. I just didn't realize. I mean, I knew there was a lot of partying and stuff when it came to the stock market and shit like that back in before the first crash in the 80s.
Yeah.
Yep.
I didn't realize if that's any sort of sort of opening to what it was at that time, then I mean, our understanding of how it was at that time with the
Yeah.
drugs, with the party, with the how they didn't give a fuck about anybody else's money but their own, then
Yeah.
I can see where it gets fucked up, right? And where it could get
Right.
it could get you fucked up because you
Right.
become gambling on other people's money now.
Right. The other question I had, probably unanswerable question, was again to you guys: would you, if you felt you were in a similar scenario, would you end up giving up your friend like he kind of tried to save Donnie in that situation? At that point, with everything that went on, would you think you would slip him a note and risk yourself going to jail like he did? Because I thought that was a pretty shitty human being in that film. I thought, and especially because he, there's no friends on Wall Street, that whole shit that he was trying to feed himself, even though he didn't want to be a rat, right? And I get it. Like going back to what I previously said about the whole rat hole thing that he did, like that's like insider trading. Like I get all that. Sorry, I just forgot to mention that when Jay was talking about it. But would you have sold out your friend in that situation because you felt that you were all going to go down anyways? Because I thought it was pretty surprising that he slipped in that note, I got to say. And I don't know what I would do in that situation. I'd like to say I would give him a heads up, but at the same time, I don't know, man, because they were all, especially if he was snitching on him too, right? We don't even know if that was the case, especially if he was. How would you know that, right? So I don't know.
I take it all the way back to when what's his name, the Ludes got arrested. Maybe because it had to do with Donnie, because he was the one driving that car. Maybe he got pinched then or something like that, and the cops and the FBI was working with him since back then, right? Instead of taking the fall like the other guy did. And you know, you never really hear about that part, whatever happened with that part. So I always take it like that, like that had something to do with it, right? At the end, right? But
Richard says absolutely he would. Yeah, listen, I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and judge you for doing that. Yeah, in that situation, who the hell knows, right? I don't know, Rob. What do you think?
Would I slip a note to a buddy of mine to warn him? Is that what you're saying?
Would you slip a note and warn your friend in that situation, do you think?
Yeah, if it was a good friend, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
well,
Yeah, I would like to think I would.
Yeah, no, I know I would. I would for sure.
But that's the thing, is that you didn't know if he was already working with that FBI agent before. So yeah, that's why that whole where Nico was going with the whole there's no friends on Wall Street.
Yeah.
It all boils down to that. Everybody gets kind of caught in doing some sort of insider trading, and when they're trying to get sneaky talk out of you,
right?
You know?
Arv brought up the fact volume normally 50, volume when JT is talking 375. Yeah, we always have a challenge in terms of JT audio even in the studio, although it's better when he's here. Unfortunately, he's recording from a car, everybody, so we got to take it as is right now. I know you got to probably adjust your volume level. JT was supposed to record from his home, but apparently the car is his home, so he's in the car.
That's why.
Nobody knows.
That's why
they don't know if I have a home.
I
That's
agree.
why you'll notice that when JT talks, right? All of a sudden, I'm talking like this to you. When JT talks, I'm like, get a little closer. Let me listen, because it's harder to hear.
I apologize, guys. Hopefully, when Jay, takes this thing on his own from me being full time on the show, he's able to record from a better spot for his audio. I'm sure Jay's aware of that.
Talking with the mic the other day.
Well, it's either that or you got the mic like over here and you're like talking like this.
Yeah.
Your beard is talking all of a sudden. Like, I don't know, like what the fuck goes on with you. But thanks for pointing that out. It wasn't me. It wasn't me who pointed it out. I'm just saying you got to take these people's comments into consideration, right? The late night
I'm just saying it's 2.5 hours into this. I'm a few joints into this, sitting in the car here. So
late night mumble with JT.
Yeah, it's the mumbles. That's what it's gonna be, man.
It's like all good. I can. This is all good. I can still hear him just turning down after he finishes. Yeah, no, I get it, man. Because then you got my loud ass. Right? Yeah. There's two things: me overly loud, Jay not so. Yes, I'm aware. That's what makes us so fun to play off each other. Okay. With that being said, though, I think that does it for our categories here. I just want to bring up one last question we had here from the chat. Which I wanted to mention my other comments on the film here as we wrap up. Is this the top 5 Scorsese movie? No, in my opinion. And I was mentioning this to Jay. I didn't tell him exactly what I was going to talk about, but I felt Something that I learned from this specific rewatch is that as much as I enjoy this film, I think it's a fun film. It's a good film. I wouldn't put it at the top of my list of my Scorsese Leo films. That would be The Departed, which we've already talked about here on the show, although it's probably right under The Departed. I mean, The Aviator. The only one I haven't seen is The Aviator somehow. The Howard Hughes. I don't know how I've never seen that film, but I haven't.
That's good.
Shutter Island, I liked. I know a lot of people didn't like that movie. And then what's the other one? Gangs of New York, I'd probably put last on that list without having seen The Aviator. But out of all the Scorsese Leo ones, I would say it's definitely my second favorite, next to Departed being my first. But top 5 Scorsese, I mean, right off the top of my head, I didn't make my list, but I would have to say Goodfellas, Casino, maybe even The Irishman. I really liked that movie. I mean, it's kind of still kind of new, maybe for me to include in the top 5. I would have to probably watch it a couple more times, but because all these other ones I've seen lots. But I would have to say Goodfellas, Casino, Raging Bull is good. Departed. I have to say Departed. I know, again, a lot of people don't love that one, but I got to say Departed. Probably Irishman. All the gangster type ones I like the best, honestly, for Scorsese. And I don't know what the last one would be. That would be probably close to my top 5, though. Again, this is off the top of my head, so I would have to look up all the Scorsese films. I mean, this wouldn't be in there though, and I gotta say, it's somewhere in the middle, probably in my list of Scorsese films. This one, as much as I like it. Oh yeah, fuck, Taxi Driver. There you go. That's my 5. That's my 5. Goodfellas, Casino, Taxi Driver. I would say possibly Irishman and Departed. Those are probably my 5. Taxi Driver is great. And I'm sure someone else is going to mention another movie here that's going to make me switch it up. Exactly. Honestly, again, this is just off the top of my head. But yeah, I think that's what I would go with. No, I just said that's my least favorite of all the Leo ones he did. So it's definitely lower on my list. I would say that I like this movie better than Gangs of New York as well. It's better than in the Scorsese all his films. So directing. I mean, he's directed all the films we talked about. He didn't write a lot of them. He didn't write this. The screenwriter wrote this and took it from the book, right? But directing all the ones I mentioned, he directed. Mean Streets is great. I agree. That's an older one, but I have seen Mean Streets. I like it. I've never seen After Hours. King of Comedy is really good too. I do agree. That's an underrated performance, even in De Niro's, I think, catalog. And I think a lot of people forget about that movie. That's the one where he is a failed, he's a little crazy and failed comedian guy. And Jerry Lewis is in it. Jerry Lewis, he goes on that show. If you watch the new Joker movie, they took a lot of inspiration from that movie, Kings of Comedy and Taxi Driver. It's basically a rip off of both those films. Yeah, no, he has Last Temptation of Christ. No, I don't know if I've seen that, to be honest with you. To be fair, I don't know if I've seen that, Mill. I know that's him. I don't know if I've seen that, so I can't say anything about it. But I don't know if it'd be the type of film I'd like.
That's crazy, man.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's a lot of. That's why it's hard to even think of it.
How about you guys? Out of some of the ones you mentioned, is this high up there for you? I guess, Rob, for you, because you said you picked this one. I guess it's high, right? It
definitely would be in my top 5 for sure. I mean, I'm still huge on Goodfellas. I love, Casino, and it's just, it's right up there for me.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's about it. That's about it for my notes. I don't know if you guys had anything else to say in terms of the movie overall, where you ranked it or any of that. Feel free to throw some comments out there, and we'll wrap up in the next few minutes.
No, I mean, basically everything was pretty much covered.
I love this film.
From what I had.
Great to rewatch.
Mm-hmm.
It was great to rewatch. It was a lot to take in. It was interesting. It was I didn't realize how much bullshit you could fit in, like literally bullshit you would fit into 3 hours.
Yeah.
Funny bullshit and great acting and all that, right? So sometimes it's hard to sit through a 3-hour movie. I mean, I don't know about just me personally, but yeah, I mean, anything that he's written, I mean, that's up that long, you can sit there and watch, no problem, right?
Max mentioned Goodfellas, Casino, and Wolf of Wall Street is like its own
Yeah.
trilogy. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, that would be good.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, maybe I would even put this just under my top 5, to be honest. Now I'm thinking of some of the other ones that he's done, but all the ones I mentioned in my top 5 that I've probably seen the most, other than Irishman, right? Like I've watched Goodfellas like 50 times, no joke.
Oh,
like
yeah.
every time, it's one of those movies you see on TV, I just get sucked into watching, right? It's just so many good performances, interesting characters. Casino, great. Yeah. So yeah, not to say I don't like this movie. I just feel like watching it this time around and definitely thinking about all the other stuff Scorsese has done and haven't seen it in a while. But I definitely, while I enjoyed it and I think it was a movie worth talking about, as you can see, 2.5 hours in, we all kind of chatted about this movie quite a bit. It's a great movie. It's a great movie. I just think it's hard to rank it amongst a director who's had so many other great movies.
Oh, yeah.
So sometimes it gets
for sure
shadowed. JT is the Canadian Jonah Hill. I like it.
I would think like that, and I lost the weight, man. If you believe it or not, hey, I could have played that role. That was a big guy like that.
Yeah. Well, Rob, I just want to thank you once again for being our guest on this. Did you enjoy the experience of being on here? It's good conversation, great conversation. I felt we had here, and this was a lot of fun. I definitely would do it again. Feel free to come back, and hopefully the plan is at this point I will probably continue with this movie show, even though I am done full time on the channel. So you'll probably see me guys on this show in the future. I always do enjoy talking about films, rewatching films, and this kind of stuff. So it's good.
Yeah.
We're going to continue with our once a month schedule for this one. I feel that's enough at this point. We'll see what the future brings, but here's the point where we announce our next movie up for the month of December. And I'm very much looking forward to this. Jay actually brought this up to me, knowing how much I like the film. So whether or not we're going to have another guest, I don't know. We'll see. We haven't figured that out yet. But we're watching National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, one of my favorite
love it.
Christmas movies, if not my favorite of all time Christmas film. So I'm really looking forward to that. Now I'm going to warn you in advance. The quotes are going to be fucking the whole episode essentially for that movie, because I love every single funny piece of dialogue in that film. And I love the movie. Yeah. Thanks guys. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you for saying that. Fun episode. Yeah, no, our there, check that out. And make sure, guys, that's why we mention it now, and I'm going to try to make earlier posts in the future to kind of let you guys know. Make sure, if you get a chance to rewatch these movies and come back and have the conversation with us, right? I know some of you guys may have great memories that you've seen the film a lot, but it's always fun to rewatch it prior to the show if you plan on tuning in, and come back and join in on the chat with us, and have it fresh in your mind, right, as we do. And it's a lot of work putting together, right? There's a lot. We do our homework for these, right? It takes away a little bit of the enjoyment in a sense, but looking at the film a little bit differently, a critical way of thinking, it's fun as well, right? So yeah. All
Merry
right,
Christmas.
Yeah,
Cheddar was full.
Kiss my ass, kiss his ass, kiss that.
Oh, I love it.
Happy Hanukkah.
Hey, Griswold, where do you plan on putting a tree that big? Bend over.
Yeah.
You got a lot of nerve talking to me, Griswold, like that. I'm not talking to you.
As I said, the quotes are going to be the whole film.
Oh, fuck. It's going to be crazy, man.
Absolutely are. No, for sure. All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in once again. Everyone have a good night, and we'll see you next month, and we will announce the date when we have it for our December late night at the movies. Thanks, everybody.